Assistant Zhu Long became used to with his boss's change of habit, and he scheduled all the meeting for afternoon and evening. He learnt his lesson. He was giving his boss some important documents and Mu Liang was reading them carefully. He noticed that his boss was glancing frequently at his door, and Zhu Long understood right away what his boss was thinking. Just then butler Leo entered the room with tray and started serving them with his delicious masala tea. It had an elegant aroma, making them all relaxed. Mu Liang looked at his wristwatch and saw it was already 10:30. Usually when Mu Lan was not drunk she would wake up earlier, but today she wasn't coming down. Mu Liang slightly frowned. He looked at the documents and casually asked the head butler, "Tell the maids to wake Hua Lan up. It is not good for her health to have her breakfast at noon." Mu Liang always used Xiao before her name in front of others. He had a habit of calling her only Lan when they were together. But when he tried to confess to her yesterday he used Xiao. Butler Leo served them tea and replied, "Young mistress went out when young master was out for running." Mu Liang's eyes halted and didn't move for a while. Then slowly he looked at the butler and observed him if he was lying. Butler Leo got confused by his sudden stare. Mu Liang asked, "She went out?" Butler Leo replied, "Yes, young master." Mu Liang asked again, "Did she have her breakfast?" Head butler answered him politely, "She took her breakfast. I personally arranged it for her when she asked for it. She also wanted lunch, so I made her a large bento." Mu Liang asked further, "Was she alone?" Leo replied patiently, "No, Hugo was with her. They took the car you arranged for her." Mu Liang put down the documents and sipped in the cup. All of a sudden, the temperature of the room dropped drastically. Mu Liang didn't expect her to move her chess piece so early. Her IQ is high. Though she was kind in nature, she was merciless towards her opponents. A smile was visible on his face. Looking at the smile, Zhu Long almost got a heart attack. Oh dear, here is boss's most creepiest smile. He shows it before he makes moves against his enemies. I don't know what happened between them, but Miss Lan, I wish you all the best. He prayed for he with his pure intention. Mu Liang thought, "You want to play hide and seek with me? Let's do it." If you find any errors, ads pop up, ads redirect, broken links, non-standard content, etc., please let us know. Report chapter so we can fix it as soon as possible. Chapter 83. Chapter 83, Please give me a loving and caring husband. Mu Lan was smiling all the way and eating her breakfast slowly, whereas Hugo was driving the car and showing her all the remarkable places in Paris. She was thinking, Liang, did you really think everything will go according to your plan? Did you really think that the way you are trying to court me you'll able to get my heart and body? Why don't we find that out? Let me show you the real me. She gave her the most mischievous smile. Hugo, who was driving while chewing his breakfast, feeling something ominous, he looked his left and saw her devilry smile. He was taken aback. However, he didn't say anything and drove to Louvre Museum. Louvre Museum was the world's largest art museum and historic monument in Paris. Mu Lan searched that hundreds of thousands of classic and modern masterpieces were in the collection of Louvre Museum. When Mu Lan saw it the day before yesterday, she didn't pay attention to it very much. She didn't even want to think about what happened that night. Last night, she opened her diary and started to make list. She didn't have her memory of her previous activity, so she was sure that she was studying in fine arts. However, when she started to paint, she knew she had lacking in various aspects. She was really surprised at first. Later she knew that she had to work hard for it. Yesterday she was given a tablet by assistant Zhu Long. He said that it was an order from Mu Liang. Though it was a new product, she found it a bit ancient. She didn't think much and used it for study arts all night. Mu Lan wanted to taste the life of art before she went to university, so she planned to visit there. After she finished her breakfast she wiped her mouth and looked out to enjoy the view. The day was sunny and the sunlight was shining brightly. Mu Lan found it very pleasant and adjusted her eyes in the light. Soon they arrived and it wasn't as attractive as it was in the night. However, a palace was always grand. Hugo showed their passes and entered. Though Mu Lan was prepared, still she was surprised and mesmerized. She enjoyed, she observed, and she learnt a very important thing. She learnt that art was life. During the lunchtime, they went to a nearby park and had their feast. It felt like a picnic. Hugo wasn't a friendly person, so he didn't bother Mu Lan and was observing the area with his professional eyes. There weren't many people in the park because it was a workday. There were 2 or 3 people sitting alone and lying down. There were 2 girls reading. There was also an artist painting. There were some couples, sitting and kissing. It was a normal thing in Paris and no one minded. After lunch she lied down on the grass and studied an hour. There was a large tress beside her, giving her shadow. It was calm and tranquil. After study, she sat up and thought about going home. Thinking of home, she smiled. She really started to think of that mansion as her own home. Everyone was very friendly and kind-hearted. They were all very caring too. Except for one, who had started to make her life upside down. It was a demon. But how could she know that he wasn't at home? Suddenly, an idea popped out in her head. In the huge Mu mansion, there must be some security cameras. If she got to know some tricks to hack their surveillance system, it would be a huge help. Mu Lan started to search in Google how to hack. She read the articles for a while and she was shocked to know how easy it was to hack. First she hacked her own cell phone and it took less than a minute. She found it very interesting. It was as fun as solving puzzles. Then she read the functions for the high-level hackers. Surprisingly, the codes looked familiar. She was startled. Could it be I was a hacker? She thought. That must be the reason why she was the target. That makes sense. Another mischievous smile appeared in her lips. If I really was good at it, then I can easily hack in the surveillance system. An hour later, Mu Lan reached home knowing Mu Liang wasn't there. After changing, first thing she did was to go to the doghouse. When she got closer, Oscar barked loudly. Mu Lan out down the hot pot which was in her hands and opened the lid. In a second the smell of beefsteak filled the area. Oscar also stopped barking and came to her suspiciously. The color of Oscar's body was black, gray and white. It was a good and rare combination. He was also very good looking. He smelled the steak slowly. After a while, he bit and started to chew one of the steaks. He wiggled his tail and barked in a friendly tone. Mu Lan smiled cunningly. I asked Hugo about your favorite dishes, honey. Feel free to it. She thought. Then Mu Lan saw a beautiful snow-white German shepherd came out of the doghouse. In a stylish way it walked towards them and nudged Oscar. Oscar gave a space so that it could also eat. Mu Lan was astonished by his gentle gesture. It must be Lucy, his wife. Oscar is a very caring husband. Lucy is sure a lucky one. Mu Lan prayed to Buddha, please give me a loving and caring husband too. When she saw the meeting, she took out her diary and ticked 2 points. Avoiding in the morning, done. Hacking the surveillance system, done. Becoming friend of Oscar and Lucy, done. She closed the diary and looked in the balcony which was attached to her room. Now for the next plan. If you find any errors, ads pop up, ads redirect, broken links, non-standard content, etc., please let us know. Report chapter so we can fix it as soon as possible. Chapter 84. Chapter 84. Today is your doomsday. When Mu Lan was busy with calculating, Mu Liang was busy in several meetings with the board of directors. Yesterday he cancelled all the meetings because he was sightseeing with his dear wife. So all the workload and meetings of yesterday and today were saved for Mu Liang. It was 7:30 when the meetings finished. Everyone was completely exhausted. However, their boss was same cool and aloof. He didn't look tired at all. As they came out of the meeting room, they praised Mu Liang's capability. Mu Liang strode towards the parking lot and went to the car. Sitting in comfortable, he took out his phone. He dialed Hugo's number. After the second ring, Hugo answered the call. "Yes, boss." A steel voice greeted. Mu Liang asked directly, "Where is she?" "Young miss is in the dining hall, having her dinner." Hugo replied. A small smile appeared in Mu Liang's lips. He further inquired, "What did she do today?" Hugo described their activities thoroughly. The only matter which he didn't tell was about Mu Lan's hacking the mansion's surveillance system. Because he didn't have any idea about it. He only said that Mu Lan was busy with her tablet. Mu Liang frowned. He questioned, what was she doing with the tablet? Hugo answered, young miss was reading something very attentively and was writing down some noted in her notebook. I saw that she was writing something about art related. Mu Liang nodded. He understood that since she was going to study, it was normal for her to study about it. After all, she was a dedicated student. Soon Mu Liang reached the mansion and was greeted by the head butler. He asked the butler, what is she doing now? As usual, Butler Leo replied politely, young miss is in her own room. Mu Liang only said, then went to his room and took bath. After that, he finished his dinner. Later he slowly strode upstairs and didn't stop at the third floor. He stopped at the fourth floor in front of Mu Lan's room. He didn't hear any noise from inside. So he knocked gently. However, no one opened the door. Did she fell asleep? He thought. Then he grabbed the handle of the door and twiddled it. But it didn't budge. The corner of Mu Liang's lips went upward. So you want to avoid me so much that you locked the door from inside. Don't you know whose house is this, my dear wife? He put his right hand in the pocket and took out a key. He put it on the lock and twisted it. There was a click sound. Smiling, Mu Liang again twiddled the doorknob. However, this time, it opened slightly, but in the end he couldn't open the door fully. He tried few times, but he couldn't open it no matter what. From the tiny space, he could see Mu Lan's reading table was blocking the door to open. Seeing that, Mu Liang put his back on the wall and started to laugh soundlessly. So this is your plan. You knew that I had the key with me. So you decided to use your reading table. All right then. Let me show you what I can do. Thinking that, he left. Meanwhile, Mu Lan was using tablet to practice her hacking skill. Afternoon, she did study about arts. However, she kept an eye on Hugo. When she saw that he lost interest in what she was doing, she started to learn how to hack. It was too easy to fool him. Right now, she was so attentive that she didn't listen that Mu Liang was knocking the door. When he tried to open the door, she heard the noise and jumped on the bed and hurriedly lied down. She covered her whole body with quilt. Afterwards, Mu Lan heard his footsteps going away. She smiled smugly and closed her eyes. Almost 10 minutes later, she heard a small noise coming from the balcony. First she thought that she mistook. Then she heard it again. Suspiciously she got off and silently went closer to the balcony. When she came closer to the door, her eyes nearly popped out. In Mission Impossible, many times it was seen that Ethan Hunt was using Hook to climb up, and with intelligence and bravery he accomplished his missions. Just like that, a Hook was right now on her balcony, and it was clear that someone was climbing to get into her room. It couldn't be a thief, not even a killer. The one who had got to climb into the fourth floor to come inside her room was none other than Mu Liang. Liang, you. Mu Lan didn't complete her thought. Quickly she closed the door. She looked around and saw a wooden chair, and she put it before the balcony door. Then she went to bed, covered her whole body and tightly hugged herself. She felt like she couldn't escape him. Mu Liang was a good athlete. He won many prizes in his school and college life, but never pursued a game life. He also went through serious training in his early 20s. So climbing to one floor from another floor was nothing to him. He could do it easily, even closing his eyes. When he was so skilled, how much time could it take to climb 4th floor from 3rd floor? It took him 2 minutes. In 2 minutes, he was in the 4th floor's balcony. Seeing the door was closed, a devilish smile appeared in his lips. "Wifey, today is your doomsday," he thought. "You have to pay for your crimes." He knew the door was locked and he took out a key to open it. From this glass door, he could clearly see a wooden chair was blocking the way. It wouldn't move and he couldn't enter. With his dark eyes, he looked around. In the east, a window was opened. To enter the room, he had to go through there. It wasn't far from the balcony. Once again, he looked through the glass door and saw her, then he went closer to the window. It took him 40 seconds to enter the room through the window. "Now, wifey, say your prayers." He slowly walked closer to her like a predator was closing towards its prey. If you find any errors, ads pop up, ads redirect, broken links, non-standard content, etc., please let us know. Report chapter so we can fix it as soon as possible. Chapter 85. Chapter 85, Who is she fooling? There are 3 types of love. It can be easily described with the help of clothes. Let's take 3 colors of clothes: black, white, and ash. Hang those clothes in an open place where they can get direct sunlight. When the sun will shine, the black cloth will slowly heat up and it will absorb the warmth fully. After the sun will go down, it will slowly release the heat and it will take time to cool down. When it comes to white clothes, under the sunlight, it will heat up quickly and will reflect the warmth. So it will be less hotter than the black and ash clothes. And when the sun will go down, it will quickly lose its warmth too. As for the ash cloth, it will take necessary heat from sunlight and will absorb it. However, when the sun will go down, it will gradually lose the warmth. Love like black cloth starts in a slow way and eventually it becomes the strongest love, and it is hard to forget as well as to lose. Love like white cloth starts within a second and the love grows quickly. However, it also ends rapidly. Love like ash cloth is selfish. It uses others by the name of love. And when the time comes to an end, it will slowly break the relation with no hard feelings. The love Mu Liang had for Mu Lan was like the black cloth. That aloof, cool-headed CEO was very cautious when it came to women. He had seen many crazy women who wanted to sell their bodies to get his power and money. So it could be said that his past experience made him careful around women. Back in Germany, it wasn't love at first sight. When he first heard about the functions of the game, he became curious and observed her carefully. She was intelligent and a brave young lady. She wasn't nervous when she was answering the judge's questions. She had a strong sense of reality, and through the virtual world she made it clear that it was not a fantasy, it was just a game, to make a person stronger for the real world. It was a game to make mentally weak people strong for the betterment. He was astonished by the idea of the game. She was a good leader and also a great friend. For the first time in his life, he became interested in a woman. He sent his assistant Zhu Long to keep an eye on her. She was unique. She talked to everyone. If someone wanted to bully her, she would twist the plot and would make them the victim. She had a pure heart but also mischievous. Once she helped an old man who was actually his grandfather. Another time, she kicked a working-class man in front of police because he was sexually harassing a schoolgirl. Even Mu Liang couldn't tell when he actually fell for her. But when he realized his feelings, it became too hard to let go, even though he knew where her heart truly lied. However, suddenly he came to his life with no memories. This time, he couldn't hold back. He knew it wasn't right, but almost 3 years of love suddenly wanted to break through everything. The urge to love her, the passion to touch her, the will to kiss her, the dream to marry her, everything came undone. However, the girl, whom he had been longing for so many months, was actually avoiding him. And that was unforgivable. He understood very well that partly it was his fault, but he didn't want to admit it. He became more and more childish, like a boy wanting to have a robot. He slowly moved towards the bed. Suddenly he stopped. He looked at the door where was the reading table. He walked there and moved it to original place. After that, he moved the chair and opened the balcony door. Calming breeze came through the door. It eased his heart. He looked at the sky. It was full moon today. The moon was sharing her light wholeheartedly. The room was also filled with beautiful silver light, making it more magical and romantic. Mu Lan was lying down as frigid as wood. She acted like she was asleep. She would definitely not let him know that she was awake. When she heard him moving table and chair, she didn't want to admit, but she felt rather guilty. Mu Liang stood beside the bed for a while, like he was thinking something. His acting was making Mu Lan even more nervous. Then he took off his slippers and went to the bed and laid down just beside her. Mu Lan couldn't tell what she was feeling. But her heart almost stopped. The room was pin-drop silence. Tonight, even birds forgot to sing. Mu Lan was holding her breath without her knowing. She couldn't hear Mu Liang's breath either. Mu Liang, who was doing everything intentionally, knowing fully well that she was awake. He was actually trying to see her expression. He wasn't actually lying down. He was facing her and his one hand was on the bed while the palm was balancing his head. He had a sweet smile on his lips. After being like that for a while, seeing no reaction coming from her, his smile widened. What an acting skill! He thought in a muse. Which human body stays so tensed while sleeping? Who is she fooling? All of a sudden, he grabbed the quilt and uncovered her. Still, Mu Lan didn't move. Her face was facing the pillow. It looked like she promised not to show her today to Mu Liang. Mu Liang didn't say anything. He observed her. She was wearing a baby pink pure silk nightgown. Her slender neck, collarbones, cleavage were naked in front of him. Also, he saw the red hickeys. They were still visible. His ocean blue eyes darkened. Mu Liang covered himself with the same quilt. This time he laid down properly. Then, he touched Mu Lan, who slightly quivered in his touch. After that, almost gently, almost forcefully, he pulled her in his embrace. If you find any errors, ads pop up, ads redirect, broken links, non-standard content, etc., please let us know. Report chapter so we can fix it as soon as possible. Chapter 86. Chapter 86, As if you can ran away from me. Mu Liang covered himself with the same quilt. This time he laid down properly. Then he touched Mu Lan, who slightly quivered in his touch. After that, almost gently, almost forcefully, he pulled her in his embrace. It was full moon. The moon was more radiant than ever. It was more like a blessing to all the Paris lover birds. Mu Liang and Mu Lan were no exception. The moon was illuminating her shimmering silver light. The bedroom of Mu Lan was lightened by the beaming light. Though it was bright, it was also mild at the same time. It was paradox. Mu Liang's feelings were also the same. He knew that he shouldn't be aggressive, but he couldn't help it. He had to touch her. For whole day, he couldn't see her. He was feeling that he was in dry season. And now that she was here in his arms, it was hard to let go. How will I survive after she goes away? He thought. Mu Liang looked at the girl in his arms. Mu Lan, she looked more beautiful than before. Her skin was brighter under the moonlight. Her body was very soft and silky. She looked so fragile that it felt like that she was going to break in any second. But still, he couldn't let go. Moreover, he wanted to do more than hugging her. Her vanilla scent was making him go crazy. It was the emotion of Mu Liang. Mu Lan, on the other hand, was feeling completely different from him. When Mu Liang touched her and embraced her body tightly, that moment, she understood that she wasn't prepared for it at all. The second he touched her, she quivered, remembering his hot touch of yesterday. And when Mu Liang embraced her, Mu Lan's heart stopped. It was her first reaction towards the intimacy between them. After few seconds, she reacted. She squirmed. She dropped her acting of sleeping and struggled to free herself from him. But how could a tiny prey win against the demon? Mu Liang laughed and tightened his grip on her waist. He brought her even closer. Their bodies were touching from top to bottom. However, Mu Lan didn't give up yet. Her writhing made their bodies grind together. Very quickly, their bodies became hotter. The laces of her nightgown was becoming undone. Mu Liang's eyes darkened further. He lowered his mouth and kissed her right ear slowly, longingly. Mu Lan shivered and fought back even more. He put himself above her. He was completely lying over her. Mu Liang asked in a dark voice, "So you stopped acting to show your strength?" Mu Lan's whole body froze. She remembered her mistake now. But what could she do? Her body acted before her brain. It was an out-of-control situation. Mu Lan's body twitched slightly and stopped struggling. She was out of breath. So she opened her mouth to take deep breath. Mu Liang's eyes moved at her open, inviting lips. Suddenly he felt that his throat was dry. Noticing Mu Liang's stare, Mu Lan looked away. She whimpered a little while asking, "Why are you doing this?" She stuttered. Seeing her adorable red face, Mu Liang's couldn't look away. He asked teasingly, "Doing what?" Mu Lan glanced at his. Her eyes were full of complaints. She opened her mouth to say something but couldn't utter a sound. Her lips quivered slightly, then she shut her mouth. Her face was becoming warmer in a second. Mu Liang smiled lovingly after watching her no response to his question. He stooped down and brushed his thick lips against her throat, then asked, "Are you talking about this?" Mu Lan gasped. Her eyes opened wide. Instinctively she moved her neck. However, Mu Liang didn't give any reaction. He nuzzled his nose in her nape. Then further asked, "Or you are talking about this?" In the instant, Mu Lan's breath hitched and she let out a small sound. Hearing her own voice, her eyes grew wider and she shut her mouth. She couldn't believe her own mouth. Mu Liang was also taken aback. He was only teasing her. He didn't have any other plan. So he didn't expect her this type of response. This girl is driving me crazy, he thought. He sighed heavily. He leaned and lovingly kissed her forehead, temples, eyes, nose, cheeks like he was soothing her. Mu Lan trembled under Mu Liang. Her lips were tightly shut as she bit her lower lips. Mu Liang stroked her head in gentle care for a while. Then he said, "You are the one who started playing hide and seek. And here I won after working so hard. Where is my prize?" Hearing him, Mu Lan's face got redder. She questioned him back, "Isn't that your fault because you did that yesterday?" Did what? Kissing you? Isn't that normal between husband and wife? He asked in a deep voice. His question had deeper meaning. Mu Lan caught it very well. Blood rushed to her face. "We aren't married." Listening to her answer, Mu Liang nuzzled his nose against hers. "You agreed and we'll get married sooner or later," he replied. His warm breaths were tickling Mu Lan's nose. Further he added, "Do you really think that you can get another man when you have me?" He smiled. His smile was as beautiful as cherry blossoms. Mu Lan didn't know why she thought that way. But she felt that way. Mu Lan couldn't say anything. Mu Liang directly looked in her eyes and said, I have to praise your intellectual ideas. Trying to play hide and seek in my mansion, more than that, it was with me. Do you really think that you can run away from me? He stared to stroke her body. His hands seemed very skilled and at the same time, inexperienced. Mu Lan shivered and tried to move away. That moment Mu Liang warned in a husky voice, if you struggle anymore I'll kiss every part of your body. Immediately Mu Lan became statue. Mu Liang's hand moved again. Mu Lan wanted to curse him. But she couldn't. Then she realized that her movement caused her dress disheveled. Mu Liang was tidying her dress. Mu Lan was stunned by his gentle gesture. Slowly she relaxed her body. After tidying her, Mu Liang hugged her softly and said, sleep now. Good night. Then kissed her lightly in the forehead and soon he fell asleep. Mu Lan understood that she could not get away from him tonight. She endured it. However, it took time to calm her beating heart. Then she also tried to fall asleep. In her dream, she saw that Mu Liang was kissing all over her body just like he warned her. If you find any errors, ads pop up, ads redirect, broken links, non-standard content, etc., please let us know. Report chapter so we can fix it as soon as possible. Chapter 87. Chapter 87, he is doing it intentionally. Next day, when Mu Lan woke up, the sun was already shining brightly. She frowned and closed her eyes. Last night it took time to be able to sleep in a man's arm. Leisurely she got up and sat on the bed in daze. She looked beside her with nearly closed eyes. It was empty. Mu Liang left before she woke up. Little by little, she remembered the previous night's activity and the perverted dream. Her face started to get red steadily. Did she lose her mind? Or maybe she became so shameless that she dreamed something like that. She remembered how he kissed her legs. Immediately she removed the quilt and nervously looked at her legs. Oh, thank goodness. There was no kiss mark. It was just a dream. Mu Lan sighed in relief. She took her cell phone to look at the time. It was 9:10 a.m. on the screen. Sleepiness left her eyes. She jumped out of the bed and grabbed her tablet from the reading table. She checked the security cameras. There was no camera inside the house, but there was one in the garage. She was stunned when she looked at it. It was empty. Usually there were 6 cars including hers. But today there was no car. She checked the entrance and parking lot. But there was no sign of any car. Where did they all go? Now how was she going to know that Mu Liang wasn't at home? Thinking for a while she looked for wireless calling bell to call for Alice and Emma, her personal maids. Strangely, there was no wireless calling bell. But she could recall clearly that she left it on the table last night. Was it Liang? She gritted her teeth. She freshened herself and changed her dress. Then slowly made her way to downstairs. In the second floor she met Alice, who was going upstairs, probably in Mu Lan's room. Seeing Mu Lan, Alice smiled brightly and said, "Good morning, young miss. I was about to call you for breakfast. Have you slept well?" Looking at her, Mu Lan felt reassured. She got her lost courage back. She smiled and replied, "Good morning, Alice. I slept well. I'm heading to the dining room." She paused and looked around a bit. Then she asked, "Alice, where is your young master?" Alice looked puzzled. Her duty was to take care of Mu Lan, not Mu Liang. In this large mansion, it wasn't easy to know everyone's whereabouts. So she replied, "I'm sorry, young miss. I cannot answer that. I haven't seen him today." Mu Lan nodded. She could guess why Alice didn't see Mu Liang. So she wasn't disappointed and patted lightly in Alice's shoulder, then said, "It's okay, I understand. Let's go downstairs. I'm hungry." Alice smiled warmly and went along with her young miss. Before going to dining room, Mu Lan faced 3 maids, and when she asked about Mu Liang's whereabouts, they couldn't answer. Today, Mu Lan finished her breakfast unhurriedly. She was already late. If she was to meet up with that demon face to face, then why eat quickly these delicious meals? She should taste them leisurely and enjoyably. After breakfast, she called Hugo to take her out. He answered politely that he was ordered to do other work, so he couldn't go out with her. Mu Lan frowned. What is going on? She thought. With doubt, she made her way towards drawing room. She was looking for butler Leo. But there were actually 2 maids, cleaning the dust. After thinking for a while, she deeply breathed. Later, she walked towards the study room slowly. Her heart was beating fast, thinking about last night. But there was no point of caging herself in the world of shyness and play hide and seek every day. Before the door, she took deep breaths, then knocked politely. Come in. A deep voice came from the inside. Mu Lan's heart started to beat louder. She slowly opened the door and looked inside. Last time when she was here, they were almost kissing. Thinking of that, she shook her head. Mu Liang was working and assistant Zhu Long was standing beside him with some documents. Hearing the familiar footsteps, Mu Liang looked up. He saw the girl he was thinking a while ago was standing in front of him timidly. Mu Liang observed her. She was clearly nervous and was a bit shy. She couldn't look into his eyes anymore. Her eyes were fixed on the floor. Her face was flushed. Mu Liang didn't say anything and just kept looking at her without blinking. Noticing his burning gaze, Mu Lan trembled lightly. She fisted her hands into balls. Why is he looking at me like that? Is he waiting for some sort of reaction from me? Or is he just curious for what I am here? Her head couldn't give her any answer because of his gaze, which was affecting her brainstorming. Suddenly she just didn't know what to do. She was standing like a robot. Understanding something wasn't right, Zhu Long looked at both Mu Liang and Mu Lan. Then he, in a low voice, excused himself and left the room. Now that the 2 of them were alone, Mu Lan was even more nervous. Seeing that, he teased her enough, Mu Liang asked in a caring voice, "Good morning. Did you sleep well? This is all your fault." Mu Lan screamed inside and glared at Mu Liang. Mu Liang smiled and said, "At last, you looked at me." Mu Lan was surprised. So he did it so that I look at him. She suddenly felt the shyness was suddenly lifted from her shoulder. She wasn't feeling inferior anymore. This guy, she didn't finish her thought. She didn't know where to hate him or like him. He always knew when to make her feel at ease. He always knew how to make her go wild. Though sometimes he acted shamelessly, she still felt secured around him. But she didn't know why she felt that way. Finally she opened her mouth, "I want to go to the library, but..." Mu Liang looked at her for a few seconds, then said, "The cars are out for cleaning. Hugo is with Ronald. Why don't you stay at home today? Tomorrow you are going to school, aren't you? It will be days when you will be able to come home. And tonight, Feng is also coming home. So everyone is already busy with preparing feast. The servants are throwing a party for both of you. Your first day at school party and Feng's a week trip welcome party. I'm not forcing you not to go out. Because everyone is busy, no one can be with you when you go out. It is a bit risky for you. So you ordered Hugo to help Donald so that I cannot go out. How clever of you. You also took the calling bell so that I cannot communicate with the maids. Cleaning the cars? In this huge place, you are telling me that you have to take cars out for cleaning? Are you kidding me? You are doing everything intentionally. The very reason is so that I cannot go out." Mu Lan gritted her teeth. If you find any errors, ads pop up, ads redirect, broken links, non-standard content, etc., please let us know report chapter so we can fix it as soon as possible. Chapter 88. Chapter 88, You Are the Only One for Me. Mu Lan knew that Mu Liang was keeping her home on purpose. But she was leaving tomorrow, so she didn't want to complain or argue. She gritted her teeth. When she opened her mouth, it was completely different what she was feeling inside. Okay, then. I'll stay at home. Saying mildly, she turned and walked towards the door. She reached near the door, and when she touched the doorknob, a strong hand pressed the door over her shoulder so that she could not open the door. Before she could take heed to it, another strong arm was gently wrapped around her waist. Her back touched a toned chest. As she realized what was happening, her calm heart started to beat vigorously. Ba-dum. 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 Mu Lan's face was turning red. Her blood was boiling. She didn't dare to look at the man behind her. She could feel the man's breathing closer to her right ear. Mu Liang's another hand, which was on the door, he used to touch her face and turned her around. He couldn't help but stroke her soft cheek lovingly with his thumb. Mu Lan was lowering her head. She didn't know where she was looking at. Her eyes were becoming fuzzy. She wanted to resist, but Mu Liang held her firmly. He hugged her tightly, then led her to sofa. Mu Lan kept struggling, but Mu Liang didn't budge. He sat on the sofa and put her in his lap. Mu Lan was leaning on Mu Liang's firm chest. Her heart was beating crazily this time. She really didn't know how to react. Her hands were on his chest, trying to keep distance between them. Mu Liang looked down on the girl. Suddenly, without warning, his hands left her waist, then grabbed her hands and removed them from his chest. After that, he hugged her again, and this time they had no space left. He held her firmly yet gently. Then slowly started to caress her back. This girl always wants to walk away from me. What can I do to make her fall for me? What can I do to make her stay with me for the rest of our life? From tomorrow I can't see her face, can't see her smile, can't hear Liang Liang from her mouth, can't touch her, hug her, or caress her like today. Mu Lan, whose head was feeling dizzy, didn't know how painfully Mu Liang's heart was beating. She hesitantly asked, "Why are you doing this?" Mu Liang's hand stopped at her back and looked at the girl, who had a red face. He gently touched her chin and made her look at him. Her eyes were blurry, yet they were curious. Curious to know about his doings, curious to understand his feelings. Mu Lan was no different from other girl. She also craved for love. She wished to get married and dreamed to have her own family. But her amnesia was her main obstacle. She wanted to know herself well before she was wrapped with an emotion called love. However, the man before her making it very impossible. No matter how much she tried to make a wall between them, he would break it apart and would make her heart go wild. She wanted to curse him, hit him for invading her personal space. But she couldn't do it no matter how much she wanted. Looking at that man's face, she would forget her worry. He would kiss her, sleep with her, hug her tightly, but she would still trust him. The feeling she had for him is trust. Nothing more, nothing less. Mu Lan was very clear about her heart, because the one she was close to was herself. She had enough time to analyze that herself. She verified her feelings, her emotions thoroughly. She also knew why her heart would go wild whenever he touched her. It was because this type of action was new to her. She wasn't used to it. That made her sure that she wasn't in any relationship before she lost her memory. She was relieved. However, Mu Liang's actions were mysterious to her. She didn't know what to think of it. She observed that he wasn't close to any other women. She felt assured that he wasn't a womanizer. But she could guess that many women had their eyes on him. She saw it many times when they were out together. If she had to marry him, she had to work hard to keep his attention only to herself, so that he could not look at other women. Why would she work hard if she didn't love him? She wanted to at least like him before she got to get married. But before that, she needed to be clear about Mu Liang's feelings too. Or she would feel insecure. So her question was very reasonable. It was afternoon. The sunlight was flowing into the study room. Outside there were some birds chirping. Sometimes Lucy and Oscar were barking at each other like lovers. Sweet smell of flowers was floating with gentle breeze. The curtains were dancing and playing with the wind. There was a feeling of tranquility. In the sunlight, Mu Lan's skin was glowing. Her face was flushed. Her eyes were blurry. Her lips were slightly open. Seeing her like this, Mu Liang couldn't take his eyes off of her. Mu Lan's question was ringing in his ear. Why are you doing this? Yeah, right. Why am I doing this? Doesn't my action prove that I'm so much into her? Doesn't she realize that she is the only one for me? Do I have to be so elaborate? Then so be it. Mu Liang gazed at her intensely. His ocean blue eyes were so deep that looked at his eyes, Mu Lan was drowning into the deep sea. Her heart was feeling warmth from the gaze. It didn't even once blink after they looked at her. In the end, Mu Liang opened his mouth. Slowly, gently yet in a deep voice he said, Hua Lan, I was never been interested in woman before you appeared in my life. You are the first to make my all rational thoughts make upside down. You are the only one make my think of you all the time. Whenever I'm close to you, my body acts before I can collect all my thoughts. You make me emotional. You make my body react. You are the one who do this to me. Hua Lan, you are the only one for me. If you find any errors, ads pop up, ads redirect, broken links, non-standard content, etc., please let us know. Report chapter so we can fix it as soon as possible. Chapter 89. Chapter 89, You will not regret your decision. In the end, Mu Liang opened his mouth. Slowly, gently yet in a deep voice he said, Hua Lan, I was never been interested in woman before you appeared in my life. You are the first to make my all rational thoughts make upside down. You are the only one make my think of you all the time. Whenever I'm close to you, my body acts before I can collect all my thoughts. You make me emotional. You make my body react. You are the one who do this to me. Hua Lan, you are the only one for me. After his confession, there was a long silence. Even the chirping sound of birds was louder in the silent room. Mu Lan, who was sitting on Mu Liang's lap, was as still as wood. She blinked few times, opened her mouth to say something but couldn't utter a single sound. Well, yes, technically she wanted to know Mu Liang's intention. She wished to know the man who was going to be her future husband. However, Mu Liang's answer was too direct. He was practically saying, I love you. Sitting in a position like this and hearing a confession was too much for her naive heart. Judging by Mu Liang's expression, he wasn't lying or making fun. He looked quite serious and sincere. For some reason, a warm feeling spread throughout Mu Lan's heart. It was like, she was waiting, and she kept waiting for something for so long that her heart was about to dry. But after decades, someone came to give her what she wanted. First, she didn't want to believe it. When she realized that she truly got what she was waiting for so long, she felt surprised, and second, she was happy. She was so happy that she laughed loudly. Her eyes sparkled. She screamed in joy and she danced till she couldn't move a single finger. She was happy and she was in peace. Before she closed her eyes for eternity, a tiny smile was still on her lips. Because she had no regrets. She was satisfied. Upon hearing Mu Liang's confession, Mu Lan's blurry eyes became even more blurry. She felt a sharp object was poking her heart. It was painful. Even though there was a hint of satisfaction. Mu Liang was startled seeing tears formed Mu Lan's eyes. Then, like raindrops, they started to fall from her eyes. Mesmerized, Mu Liang looked at her tears. Her face was shining in the sunlight, and her tears were glittering like stars in the night sky. They were so beautiful that he kept looking at them. The scene was very captivating. Mu Liang even forgot to wipe the tears away. It was his first time seeing her cry. His gaze was intense as he was complimenting her beauty. Suddenly, Mu Liang felt a strong desire from deep inside his heart was waking up. He knew this feeling very well. It was a thirst to hurt someone. His inner demon was craving for Mu Lan's tear. Immediately, Mu Liang hugged Mu Lan and let her tears fall in his shirt. He didn't want to see any more of her tears. Now he realized how it was for the other guy. That guy must have gave in to the desire of his inner demon, and that's why he made her cry for so long. Does that mean he likes her? Mu Liang thought. He didn't want to think of it anymore. What kind of man would let his beloved cry? I'm not that sort of man. I'll make her happy. He promised then and there. Mu Liang waited until his inner demon subsided. Then he looked down at her and softly wiped her tears. Finally he hugged her face with his two palms and opened his mouth. Lan, you don't have to answer me right away. I'll wait for you until the day I have nothingness. You don't have to pressure yourself. I don't want to see you suffer. Mu Lan's mind was blank. When she was looking for what to answer, she felt that she was hugged. As she felt the wet shirt in her cheek, she realized that she was crying. Was it because she felt sad? Was it painful? Or was it because she felt happiness? She didn't know the answer. Moreover, she didn't want to think of it. The warmth of Mu Liang's chest and his light heartbeats made her calm down. When she finally found her voice back, she heard Mu Liang's gentle voice saying, Lan, you don't have to answer me right away. I'll wait for you until the day I have nothingness. You don't have to pressure yourself. I don't want to see you suffer. Mu Lan's heart almost stopped beating. This guy was always treating her so nicely. He gave her a home to stay, gave her the most delicious food she could never get, gave her expensive dresses and jewelries. He took her out for romantic dates. Together with her, he went to sightseeing. He bought her a car, a boat. He hired a bodyguard for her protection. He let her admit in a famous university. If he truly wanted her body, would he have to go for so much trouble? He could forcefully marry her and could make her his own. And she could do nothing but grief. But he didn't. Because, before everything he wanted from her, he wanted her heart. That's why he kept waiting patiently. He gave her all the time he had left with him, to decide whether she wanted to give her heart to him or not. For the first time in her life, Mu Lan felt blessed. She felt blessed to get such a man. Did I do anything good in my previous life to get such a good, wealthy man for myself? She thought. At last, she looked Mu Liang's eyes. Mu Liang was jolted to see how clear her eyes were. They were transparent, yet they were actually glowing in the sunlight. Mu Lan opened her mouth, her voice was firm and full of determination. She said, Liang, I promise you, you will never regret your decision. If you find any errors, ads pop up, ads redirect, broken links, non-standard content, etc., please let us know. Report chapter so we can fix it as soon as possible. Chapter 90. Chapter 90, just stay with me. Mu Liang was stunned upon hearing her answer. Just like Mu Lan before, he didn't know what to say. He was expecting a reply from her, but he wasn't expecting that. At first, he thought that he misheard her. Psychologically, what one wanted to hear, even others were saying something different, mistakenly one would hear the thing they wanted to hear. Mu Liang thought that maybe he was too eager to hear her say yes. That's why he mistook. However, looking at her determined eyes, he realized that he heard just right. There was no mistake. She really promised that he wouldn't regret her decision, which meant that she was going to treat him as her husband in future. Mu Liang's heart shook. His intense gaze changed into loving gaze. He looked at the beauty in his arms. Slowly he stooped down and touched her forehead with his, then at her eyes directly. Mu Lan's eyes, as clear as water, just like sky would become clear after heavy rainfall, were gleaming as they looked at his ocean blue eyes. They were so close that they could feel each other's breaths. Mu Liang stroked both of her cheek with his thumbs softly. His slightly gentle affection made Mu Lan's heart feel warm. She was feeling shy, but she couldn't tear her eyes off of his deep eyes. She felt like she was drowning. In a loving tone, Mu Liang said, "Lan, I'll never hurt you. I'll always take care of you. I'll support you in every way possible. You will always be my first priority. So, please, never leave me alone, Lan. I won't be able to bear it. Just stay with me always." Okay. For some reason, Mu Lan's eyes started to get blurry again. Tears formed in her eyes. A drop of tears fell from her eyes. Mu Lan couldn't explain what she was feeling. Her heart was throbbing painfully. In her mind she was asking Mu Liang, "Where were you all this time?" She couldn't get it. How come someone would like her so much? Her heart almost stopped and it was hard to breathe properly. Her eyes already turned red and swell. When she opened her mouth to answer, her lips trembled. Her voice wouldn't come out. She just nodded her head. Getting an affirmative sign, Mu Liang hugged her so tightly that Mu Lan was almost out of oxygen. After a very long time, finally, Mu Liang loosed his grip. Gently he tied up Mu Lan's untidy hair. Then he put his right hand on the shirt pocket and took out a silver chain with green jade pendant. The pendant was teardrop shaped, and the stop was gleaming. He carefully put it on her neck. Mu Lan looked at it in surprise. Seeing her gaze, Mu Liang questioned, "Do you not like it?" Mu Lan looked back at him. Not answering his question, she, on the hand, asked him, "Did you choose this for me?" Mu Liang answered shortly. Mu Lan's clear eyes glittered. She happily answered, "I like it a lot." Seeing her smile, Mu Liang was at ease. A warm smile was visible in his lips. Tenderly, he stroked her head, then said, "Always wear it. It is a good luck charm." Before Mu Lan could say okay, Mu Liang's phone rang. Mu Lan was immediately out of his lap. Frigidly she said, "You must be busy. I won't disturb you anymore. You should pick up the phone." Saying that, she hurriedly left. For a few seconds, Mu Liang was sitting on the sofa like before. His cell phone was still ringing annoyingly. With a chilling gaze he glanced at that disturbing portable device like he was going to freeze it. He looked at the name. It was Mu Chen, the youngest master of Mu family. Mu Liang received the call. With a cold voice he said, "Yes." Mu Chen, who was used to his elder brother's cold voice, didn't think much. He cheerfully asked, "Big brother, it's been a month. How is your day going on? What are you doing?" With a chilling voice Mu Liang answered, "Digging your grave." After saying that, he hung up. Other side of the phone was dead silent. Mu Chen put down his phone. He was oblivious of the fact what was going on in Mu Mansion. He thought, did I annoy Big Brother for some reason? At the lunch hour, Butler Leo was in the study room to call young master for dinner. Mu Liang asked him, "Where is Hua Lan?" As usual, in a polite tone head butler replied, "Young mistress was playing with Lucy and Oscar." When the maids went to call her, Oscar chased them away. No one dared to go closer to young mistress. Hearing that, Mu Liang's right eyebrow went up. Then he got up. Before leaving he said, "I'm going to call her." Going near the doghouse, Mu Liang saw Mu Lan was sleeping soundly beside Lucy. The sunlight wasn't intense, but laying down on the grass, the sunlight was over the head, it would make anyone drowsy. As soon as Mu Liang stepped once toward Mu Lan, Oscar came closer with growling sound. He didn't bark because his wife and his new beautiful friend was napping. Mu Liang frowned. He sat on his legs and looked at Oscar seriously. Then he said in a warning tone, "Don't forget who let you meet your wife. If it wasn't for me, do you think you have enough luck to keep your beautiful wife? Now give my wife back to me." Oscar scoffed like it wasn't for Mu Liang but for his own charm that he got Lucy as his wife. Seeing that didn't work, Mu Liang used another strategy. He warned Oscar in a different way, "Do you think it is better for your wife to know that you have interest in my wife?" This time Oscar had no other way not to back down. He could only see his new beautiful friend was captured in his demonic master's hands. Oscar could only mourn inside, "Sorry my dear new friend. I could not save you from the demon's claw. If you find any errors, ads pop up, ads redirect, broken links, non-standard content, etc., please let us know. Report chapter so we can fix it as soon as possible." Chapter 91. Chapter 91, Feast. /N. It has been a while that we have seen Mu Feng, right? Do you miss him? Mu Lan was sleeping peacefully like nothing in this earth could harm her. In the Mu mansion, she always let her guard down. Today was no exception. So she had no idea that right now she was being carried away by Mu Liang, and maids who were working on the way saw the most unimaginable scene in their lifetime. Within half an hour entire residents knew that their young master actually carried young mistress. Then they understood how serious their young master was about the marriage and everything. Mu Liang previously looked at young women like they were some sort of germs. It was because he got 2 experiences of women who wanted to marry him. One of them was even 5 years older than him. They even schemed against Mu Feng and wanted to break the good relationship between 2 brothers. If only they knew what a great mistake they had done. After that, they were vanished without any trace, and no one actually searched for them, not even their families, in case they would make angry Mu Feng. Mu Feng could be scary when he wanted to. After that, Mu Liang never allowed young women in any ceremony or party. If women were there, he wouldn't, and if he was there, women wouldn't be there. It had become an unwritten constitution. And that man, right now, was carrying a sleeping beauty who was going to be his wife in future. Those maids who didn't pay much attention to Mu Lan, from then on, they never gossiped about her. Mu Liang took Mu Lan in her room and gently laid her down on the bed. Then he sat beside her, caressed her head and run his fingers through her hairs few times. He actually wanted to dine with her together for lunch because at dinner time, Mu Feng would also be with them. So Mu Liang and Mu Feng couldn't be alone together. Mu Liang signed and then got up from the bed and headed towards the dining room. 2 hours later, Mu Lan woke up from her slumber. After opening her eyes, it took a while to recognize the room. The sky was changing from sky blue to red-yellow. The room filled up with orange-color sunlight. While she was trying to remember how she ended up in this room, her stomach growled. As she rubbed her stomach, her eyes glanced at the tray full of dishes on the table. Happily she had her meal and complimented cook Eva as well. After finishing her late lunch, she went to Mu Liang's study to pay a visit to him. She knocked the door and opened the door. As soon as she entered the room, a pair of strong arms hugged her tightly. Before she could resist, she heard a cheerful voice which she didn't hear for a week. The man exclaimed, "Sister Lan, it has been a while. I missed you so much." Recognizing the voice, Mu Lan laughed merrily and then replied, "Brother Feng, how was your trip?" Mu Feng let go off his beloved future sister-in-law when he couldn't endure the piercing gaze on his back. He replied, "It was great. Next time I'll take you there." Saying that, he pulled Mu Lan's right hand and made her sit next to him on the sofa, saying, Come, look, what I bought for you." Overexcitement made him repeat the words. Only then Mu Lan saw many sizes of boxes on the table. Mu Feng gave her a box and said, "Open it." Curiously, Mu Lan opened the box and found a wristwatch made with white gold and white, pink diamonds. It was stunningly gorgeous. Mu Lan couldn't tear her gaze off of it. She wanted to reject the gift, when Mu Feng said, "I knew you would love it, Sister Lan. I specially ordered it only for you." Cunningly, he forcefully put it on her left hand. Mu Lan wasn't able to refuse. She was also given lots of chocolate boxes. There was no way she would refuse that. She started to eat chocolate then and there. Looking at her jolly face, Mu Liang's cold face became softer. He tenderly gazed at her. Mu Feng started to tell about his holidays in Switzerland. With great attention, Mu Lan was listening to his story. Mu Feng was an extraordinary storyteller. As they gossiped, it was already evening, it was dinner time. Head butler Leo politely asked them to join for dinner. When they went to dining room, smells of various delicious foods entered their nostrils. Automatically, their mouth was filled with saliva. Mu Feng's stomach growled loudly. Mu Lan laughed even louder. They looked at the table and saw hot and sour soup, senwan chili chicken, spring rolls, stir-fried tofu with rice, shirtake fried rice with water chestnuts, chicken with chestnuts, wok tossed veggies in honey and black bean glaze, tang yuan, hong do tang, custard tart. After thanking Lord Buddha, they dug in. It wasn't certain who started to compete, however, in minutes, Mu Lan and Mu Feng's bowls were getting empty. To make Mu Lan slow down, Mu Feng started to tell jokes while eating his fill. Mu Lan knew it was trap, but she couldn't control her laugh and surely she had to slow down. His jokes were quite hilarious. Even Mu Liang was enjoying it. Mu Lan laughed so hard that her stomach hurt. With smiling face she said, "Brother Feng, you cheat." This way, the room was filled up with voices and laughter. Even butler Leo and two stewards couldn't help but smile. Two maids who were standing beside the door tried hard not to giggle. From the corner, cook Eva was smiling in satisfaction as the three of them were enjoying her cooking. She never had any children. So Mu Liang and Mu Feng were like her own children. Looking at their happy faces, her heart was filled with warmth. If you find any errors, ads pop up, ads redirect, broken links, non-standard content, etc., please let us know. Report chapter so we can fix it as soon as possible. Chapter 92. Chapter 92, Hungry Beast. After dinner, Mu Feng and Mu Lan rubbed their bellies with satisfaction. They occasionally burped. Tomorrow was a big day for Mu Lan. So she didn't want to stay awake. She left the dining room after saying thank you to Cook Eve and good night to everyone. Mu Liang wanted to be alone with Mu Lan. But Mu Feng didn't let that happen. He dragged his elder brother into his room. Mu Feng's room was very luxurious. He had an attached bar in his drawing room. Making cocktail was part of his hobby. When both brothers sat in the chairs, Mu Feng started to make cocktails. Mu Liang didn't care his younger brother and asked, "What is it you want to know?" After making the cocktail, Mu Feng gave it to his elder brother. He said, "Big brother, what did you do this whole week to dear sister-in-law? She neither glanced at you nor she talked to you even once. So, brother dearest, what did you do?" While he was asking, Mu Liang was reaching out for the cocktail. Hearing his younger brother's question, his hand stopped at the midway. Listening to Mu Feng's question, Mu Liang sipped once then told him about their recent activities. Hearing him out, Mu Feng's jaw dropped. He knew his elder brother was a demon, but never in a million years, he would have thought that his wise brother would act like a hungry beast in front of his future wife. So this is how all yogis act. After staying at dessert, when they find oasis, they crazily jump into it. Mu Feng thought. Helplessly he shook his head. Later, he said, "Big brother, I left home for 7 days because I thought that it would be wise for you two to have some alone time. I wanted you to make her feel at ease when she is with you. Do you think that I don't know about your scheme?" Mu Liang grunted. Mu Feng was speechless. Why did it feel like that big brother was accusing me? He thought. He didn't go further about this topic anymore. He asked, "How do you plan to make it up for her?" Mu Liang looked at his younger brother expressionlessly. Mu Feng was waiting for the answer. Mu Liang slowly said, "Divide and conquer." Late night, Mu Liang went to 4th floor and Mu Lan's door was locked as usual. He sighed. She really was trying to shut him out. He heard no sound from the inside of the room. He wanted to knock, but in the end he lowered his hand. He wanted to give her a peaceful night for tonight. He strode back to his room. The night was calm, slightly cold. The bedroom was dark at first. However, silver light of the moon brightened the room. Mu Liang looked at the moon while drinking wine as he sat on a chair in the balcony. Tomorrow is a new day, for all of us. Good luck, Mu Lan, in a new life. It was a beautiful morning. In the blue sky, white clouds were floating. The wind was blowing mildly. The birds were chirping. The butterflies were flying from one flower to another one. It was a peaceful day. However, Mu Mansion was busy with Mu Lan's departure. One steward was carrying her luggage, another steward was carrying small boxes. They left early with maid Alice to arrange her room and to clean up. Mu Lan was excited and also a bit nervous. She woke up earlier than usual. She was pacing in her room for 10 minutes. After few minutes, her personal maid Emma came to tell her that breakfast was ready. Mu Lan went down and met Mu Liang in the dining room, who was waiting for her to come. Mu Lan became frigid, but soon she became normal. She smiled at him and said, "Good morning, Liang." Seeing her bright yet polite face, Mu Liang's expression became warm. His lips stretched in both sides. He replied, "Good morning, Lan. Have you slept well?" Mu Lan nodded slightly and said, "Yes, I did. How about you?" She could see the dark circles under his eyes. Mu Liang looked directly in her eyes. He said, "I didn't sleep an ounce. I was thinking about you." Mu Lan's face flushed. She lowered her eyes. She couldn't look at his eyes anymore. Quietly she sat on the chair and changed the topic. "Where is brother Feng?" "That kid is sleeping. He had too much alcohol last night." Mu Liang replied nonchalantly, like it was normal for Mu Feng. Mu Lan didn't ask anything further. She silently had her breakfast. She was going to miss Cook Eve's cooking. So she ate slowly to memorize the flavor. Mu Liang was eating slowly too. Most of the time he was looking at the girl before her. He was going to miss this scenario. All of a sudden, he asked, "When will you come back?" He couldn't wait for her to come back. Mu Lan didn't reply instantly. She chewed down her food slowly, making his wait. Then she opened her mouth, "In winter vacation. So you won't come before Christmas?" Mu Liang asked again. He didn't like the answer. Mu Lan sipped her milk. After that she said, "I don't think I'll get a long vacation before it." She really wanted to avoid that topic. Mu Liang understood it very well. He knew that she was going to avoid him in future. Their hide-and-seek game hadn't finished yet. He smiled gorgeously as he said, "It's all right. Take your time to adjust in new environment." Mu Lan's jaw almost dropped. She was clearly doubtful about his behavior. Mu Liang's sweet smile was certainly suspicious. Mu Lan slowly nodded and meekly said, "Thank you." Her head started to work very fast, just like roller coaster. She couldn't believe that she would be freed so easily. She realized that Mu Liang was plotting something. She wanted to find that out, but who could guess his unpredictable plan? If you find any errors, ads pop up, ads redirect, broken links, non-standard content, etc., please let us know. Report chapter so we can fix it as soon as possible. Chapter 93. Chapter 93, Liang, trust me. It was almost time to leave. Mu Feng took out his car. He was still feeling sleepy. But he thought that it was his duty as brother-in-law to send his sister-in-law in her school. Mu Lan was waiting for Mu Feng. Beside her was Mu Liang. When Mu Feng brought the car and stopped it beside them, Mu Liang opened the door for Mu Lan. She steadily went inside. Mu Liang also followed. They sat side by side. No one was talking. Mu Feng was also silent. He wanted to give some space to his elder brother and sister-in-law. Mu Liang was quietly sitting beside Mu Lan. He gently held her right hand. Mu Lan's hand was soft, tender, a bit cold. His warm hand immediately rose its temperature. He was going to miss this touch. Mu Lan didn't give any reaction. Even when Mu Liang touched her hand, she was expressionless. She kept looking outside, the whole time. Till few minutes ago, she was excited. Just when she went to the car, she felt that she was going to miss this place. It had been only a week, but she became very close to this place. She was going to miss the food made by Cook Eve, the friendliness of Emma and Alice, sweetness of Oscar and Lucy, childishness of Mu Feng, fatherly care of butler Leo and warmth of Mu Liang. Just like she was going to miss the touch of his hand. Her heart felt suffocated. Without any sound, she breathed deeply to calm herself. Liang, you did a lot for me. Alice told me last night, after I was shifted in the mansion, you hardly left my side. You barely slept and ate. You neglected your company. For how long you were having such feelings towards me? It is impossible to fall for an injured person. Does that mean you know from the beginning? If it's true, then you hid my past from myself, didn't you? Did you do it for my safety? Or did you do it for some other reason? Is it guilt? However, I don't care. The way you care for me, you will never possibly dare to harm me deliberately. At least, I know that. I didn't trust you for nothing. Your kindness is the most special to me. That's why I chose not to make you regret your decision. But it is also true that I still ain't in love with you. I know very well that I will certainly become the happiest woman if I am to fall in love with you and marry you. However, I can't make you fall in danger because of me. Thinking of the pictures that those men were chasing me still gives me chill down to my spine. And they injured me badly, it means they wanted me dead. Knowing that I have foes to kill me, how am I possibly think of being together with you? How can I possibly make you my enemy's target? I know you are powerful. I also understand that you kept me clueless for some reason. I'm not as powerful as you are. Maybe I can't even handle it on my own. But I don't want to drag you into this. You have already done so much for me and I can't thank you enough. Before I fall and live with you, I want to certain about myself. When I'll see that I'm not in danger anymore, I'll marry you. I hope the 6 months I have asked from you is enough to find about myself. Since you won't be staying with me, I will be free to investigate. Though you have your reason to conceal everything from me. However, I have my reason to find out everything about myself. I don't want to give you a hard time. I also don't want you to feel guilty. After I can learn about my past, I will find out my enemies. Then I will put it in for me and for you. So Liang, trust me. This time, I want to show you that I'm not as frail as you think I am. I have a good head over my shoulder. I can use my brain better than a normal person. I have already checked my IQ behind your back. Don't underestimate my capability. Liang, wait for me. Wait for me for 6 months. Believe me, before 6 months come to an end, I'll find out the truth. I'm sorry for hiding this from you. This is for the best. Maybe sensing her odd behavior, Mu Liang squeezed her hand softly. His sweet gesture shot a knife through her heart. Her heart felt very painful. Her throat became dry. Her eyes prickled as tears formed in her eyes. She did not want to cry in front of him. Knowing his personality, if he found out, he would make her return immediately. Mu Lan controlled her emotion. She looked at the sky through the window of the car. She slowly let her tears dry before they fell from the eyes. Her throat was still dry and it felt burning. She glanced at front. There was a flask. She took it with her left hand, put it between her legs, opened the lid with left hand, and then she drank the water. She gulped down 3 times. Her sudden activity made Mu Liang surprise. He looked at her right hand, which was held by his left hand. After looking at their joint hand, he smiled at her fondly. After he grabbed her hand, not once she let her hand go. She didn't avoid his touch. The thought made Mu Liang's heart full of warmth. Suddenly he felt happiness. He stroked the opposite side of her palm with his thumb. Mu Lan was stunned by his sudden affection. She looked at him, then she also smiled. Again she stared at outside. This time, her eyes were full of determination. On the other hand, Mu Liang kept stroking her hand till they reached the school. Helplessly, Feng shook his head. How could Big Brother miss such opportunity? If you find any errors, ads pop up, ads redirect, broken links, non-standard content, etc., please let us know. Report chapter so we can fix it as soon as possible. Chapter 94. Chapter 94, Forgot to Breathe. It took them 2 hours to reach their destination. To Mu Lan, it felt only minutes. When the car stopped, she got out of the car first. She looked at the gate and then looked around. Confused, Mu Lan glanced at Mu Feng and asked, "Brother Feng, are you sure that we came to my school, not a museum?" Mu Feng's eyes twinkled hearing her question. He said cheerfully, "Don't worry, Sister Lan. Though you are beautiful and intelligent, we won't sell you to the museum. We are not short of money and you are our precious gem." First reaction of Mu Lan was stunning. She blinked cutely for a few seconds. Soon she understood that Mu Feng was joking. She face slightly flushed and she glared at him. Mu Liang smiled at her reaction. He tenderly rubbed her head and said, "He's just messing with you. He is in a good mood because it is also his school." Mu Lan gazed at Mu Feng in surprise. Mu Feng saw her looking at him and he winked. She narrowed her eyes. He did it purposely. She accused inside. Mu Feng, as mischievous as he was, of course hid that fact so that he could have fun with her. Mu Lan looked at the glass building standing proudly in front of her. Looking at them, her blood started boiling. Her gloominess from before was instantly washed up by overexcitement. She started to walk on her own and like a little girl she looked around. She couldn't conceal her happiness as she walked around. Her eyes shone and a smile was on her lips. Her body felt light and when she walked, she felt like she was floating. Behind her 2 Mu brothers were walking. Mu Feng were smiling as he was staring at the female students and sometimes saying hi to them. Girls couldn't help but drool. Mu Liang, on the other hand, was looking straight at his wife. A small smile was hanging on his lips. Mu Feng, who caught up with girls, walked fast and came beside his brother. He was enjoying his brother's mesmerized view. He finally opened his mouth. "Big brother," he said. Mu Liang replied shortly. He was still looking at Mu Lan. "Did you see?" Mu Feng asked. "Yes, I am." A hint of warmth was covered in Mu Liang's eyes. "Then how can you still smile?" Mu Feng knew what his brother was referring to. That's why he was pointing that out. Mu Liang stopped at his track. He gave his younger brother a confused look. He asked, "What do you mean?" Mu Feng acted like he was surprised. He asked, "Can't you see the male students are ogling at your wife?" Mu Liang was startled and then looked around them. What Mu Feng said was the truth. Many male students were looking at Mu Lan. Some of their eyes sparkled, some of their eyes were full of compliments, some of them were fascinated, some of them had lecherous look on their faces, few dared to whistle. Mu Liang burnt in rage. A moment ago he was enjoying his wife's scenery. He was so captivated that he didn't see other men were just like him, ogling at his wife. How could a loving tolerate such gaze towards his wife? Of course, Mu Liang also didn't. He darkly looked at those beasts, then strode fast to catch Mu Lan. The girl, who had no clue what was going on around her, sensed a powerful presence. As she looked back, she smiled sweetly. Seeing her smile, Mu Liang forgot about his rage and glanced at her tenderly. He gently touched her hand and asked, "Are you liking this school?" "No. Actually, I'm loving this place in a second." Mu Lan replied merrily. "So you are having fun then?" This statement sounded more like a question than an affirmative sentence. If she were to say yes, he would say nothing. But if she were to say no, then he was going to take her away from these ogling men. Mu Lan smiled brightly and said, "I most certainly am having fun." Her white pearl teeth dazzled on the sunlight. Mu Liang didn't say anything anymore. Taking her hand, he simply walked by her side closer to the dormitory. The male students didn't approach her as they saw the handsome man was holding her hand. Mu Feng sneered inside. "Did you guys think you could actually defeat Mu brother? Well, dream on. The more they were getting closer to the female dorm, the more Mu Liang started to feel empty. However, he didn't let it show. He kept silent and guided her towards her room. Mu Lan's room was situated around the corner and it was on the second floor. From there a flower garden was clearly visible. As her room was around the corner, not many students walked this area. So they weren't caught when they went upstairs. The color of the door was pink. Mu Liang handed her a bunch of keys. As for the keyring, the word Mulan was written with small diamonds. Mulan was already used to his extravagance attitude. So she didn't argue about it. She took the keys and opened the door. Alice kept the windows open and the curtains were all moved aside. The sunlight had filled the room. Everything could be seen clearly. Mulan's jaw dropped. The room was spacious. It was colored in light pink. The ceiling was dyed in Prussian blue. There were stars and moon which would glow in dark. The window was on the side of the garden, just at the right side of the door. It was large, the length was from ceiling to the ground. In front of the window, there was a bamboo swing. Beside the swing was reading table, beside it was a soft double bed, beside it was washroom, beside was a dressing table and closet, beside it was an attached door to go to the art room, beside it was a mini frieze and sofa set with tea table. The corner of the art room was divided with a hard board and there was a small kitchen with necessary requirement. The art room had canvas and all sort of brushes and colors. Sometimes Mulan forgot that she was the fiancée of the richest man in Europe. Mu Liang reminded her all the time. Looking at the room, Mulan forgot to breathe. If you find any errors, ads pop up, ads redirect, broken links, non-standard content, etc., please let us know. Report chapter so we can fix it as soon as possible. Chapter 95. Chapter 95, IT is hard to let go. Mu Liang looked at Mulan. He felt satisfied seeing her surprised expression. Mulan was looking at the room in daze. Her eyes were round, hazy. Her mouth was slightly open as if she wanted to say something but couldn't utter a word. Mu Liang took her hand and walked into the room with her. Just then Mulan looked at him. Her eyes were filled up with full of gratitude. "Thank you," she said softly and shortly. Mu Liang looked at her with great affection. He replied, "There is nothing you should thank me for. You deserve all the happiness and fairness in this world." Mulan looked into his deep eyes. His eyes were honest and truthful. She chewed her lower lip. For past few days she observed that Mu Liang never lied to her at all. It gave a sense of security. Only his truthfulness made her believe in him so much. She complained, "You are too good to me." Mu Liang smiled seeing her pouting face. He replied, "Of course I am. If I'm not, who will?" Behind of his words meant that he was her future husband, so he had every right to pamper her, not anyone else. Mu Lan's heart flattered as she understood the inner meaning. At the door, Feng was standing. His face was sour. Oi, you guys are not alone. Don't you think I had enough of your dog food? He felt mentally hurt and coughed a little to let them know his presence. Startled, both of them looked back and saw Mu Feng. For ruining the mood, Mu Liang looked coldly at his younger brother. As if he didn't understood the warning gaze, Mu Feng started to walk around the room. He observed that the arrangement of the room was simple but dignified. The decoration of the room was well matched with Mu Lan's taste and her personality. Mu Feng knew that his brother was personally involved in this, but there was something off. In the decoration, there was a touch of a woman. He could feel it. It wasn't possible for Mu Liang. It was hard to believe that his elder brother worked with a woman. It was very unusual. Curiously, he looked at his brother. Feeling his younger brother's sharp gaze, Mu Liang glanced back. Reading his eyes, Mu Liang opened his mouth and with a sound moved his lips. Reading his lips, Mu Feng's eyes grew bigger. His elder brother said, "Louise Fontaine." Mu Feng pursed his lips in understanding and gave his brother a thumbs up. Two Mu brothers' interaction was unknown to Mu Lan. She looked back and forth. She went to look at the washroom, painting room, and kitchen. She could cook if she wanted and she didn't have to go to the canteen to buy food. Her eyes sparkled when she looked around. The reading table had two parts. On one part there was a laptop set up and another part was for studying. On the drawer, there was a credit card. Mu Lan looked at the man who was responsible for everything. She said, Liang, it's too much." Mu Liang listened to her complain. Then walked towards her and gently rubbed her head. He replied, "Lan, you deserve more. If it wasn't for your simplicity, then I would make everything around you grand." Mu Lan couldn't say any more. She only held her tongue back. To give the Mu couple some privacy, Mu Feng left earlier. Mu Lan took bath, changed her dress into simple homely dress and walked out of the bathroom. She saw Mu Liang was sitting on the swing and was looking out of the window. Hearing noise behind him, Mu Liang looked back and froze for a second. He saw Mu Lan was wearing simple pink t-shirt and skirt. Her hair was wet and she was drying her hair in towel. Her skin looked incredibly soft and after a hot bath her skin was red. Some droplets of water was on her forehead and behind her neck. Such enticing scenario made Mu Liang's heart race. He could feel his blood was boiling. He knew that he shouldn't stay here long, so he gradually stood up and put on his coat. Noticing the movement beside her, Mu Lan glanced at him. Seeing him getting ready to go back, suddenly her heart sank. She really was not ready to live alone all of a sudden in an unknown place. Mu Liang looked at her and said, "I should get going." Mu Lan was good at hiding her feelings. She simply nodded and tried to smile. Looking at her half-smiled face, Mu Liang's heart ached. He said, "If you have any problem, call me any time." Again, Mu Lan nodded. Mu Liang wanted to hear her voice. Since she didn't say a word, he turned around to leave with unsatisfied heart. However, before he could take the fourth step, he was bound. He couldn't move. It wasn't that he couldn't move his strong body. It was just, he was so stunned that he couldn't move a finger. Because, a pair of soft hands hugged him from behind, preventing him moving. It was almost evening. The sky was dyed in yellow, orange hue. Still the rays of the sun filled the whole room, making it more romantic. And closer to the door, Mu Lan was hugging Mu Liang. The room was pin-drop silent. No one was moving. Mu Liang's whole body shook in anticipation while Mu Lan only held him tighter. Mu Lan was going to war, alone, in a country where she was still unknown and she wasn't familiar either. The only person who was closer to her was Mu Liang. As long as he was there, she could breathe, she could eat, she could laugh, she could sleep without a single thought. And now that she wanted a war which died the moment she lost her memory. She wanted to win no matter what, because she wished to live peacefully with Mu Liang. She didn't want to give him trouble. The burden which was on her shoulder wasn't an easy task. Rather, it was frightening. So, when Mu Liang wanted to leave, subconsciously she reached out and hugged him. Ah, it is hard to let go, she thought. If you find any errors, ads pop up, ads redirect, broken links, non-standard content, etc., please let us know. Report chapter so we can fix it as soon as possible. Chapter 96. Chapter 96, Subconsciously. Mu Lan wasn't prepared at all when Mu Liang wanted to leave. She thought that he was going to stay a little while. However, as soon as she came out of bathroom after having a hot water shower, Mu Liang wanted to leave. He gradually stood up and looked at her before saying, "I should get going." Mu Lan froze on the spot upon hearing his line. She wanted to say something but her throat was suddenly dry. She hid her loneliness and nodded silently. She tried her best to smile but her heart was saying something different. It was empty. Then she heard him saying, "If you have any problem, call me any time." She was taken aback. This guy, always saying something to make her abandon everything and to choose him regardless what he was. From the moment she opened her eyes she saw that his first priority was she. He even missed his meetings and important works for her. He took her out so that she can enjoy her life in here. He, without any complaint, accepted all her selfish wishes. To give her a successful life, he let her study. He didn't want her to let go. But she insisted to stay at dorm and though he was very unwilling, he let her stay there. Even he spent millions to decorate her room. Never once, he thought about his own wish when he dealt with her. She could understand his urge to cage her. But he never had done anything ruthless to make her uneasy. He may be strict to others but he was the most gentle man she ever met. Even now, he was telling her to contact him if she needed any help. How can there be such a man? Looking at his broad back, Mu Lan's eyes filled with tears. She was going to miss his voice. She was going to miss his deep gaze. She was going to miss his touch. She was going to miss his warmth. She was going to miss him. She really didn't want him to go so quickly. Before she could think of anything, subconsciously she reached out her hand and hugged him tight. Then she realized how much he meant to her. He gave her security. He gave her company. He gave her everything she wanted. And subconsciously, she reached out to him countless times. She just couldn't stay away from him. Mu Liang, who was also feeling lonely, the sudden hug made him feel overwhelmed with lots of emotions. It was the first time Mu Lan ever touched him on her own. Happiness, warmth as well as strong affection with stiffness, all of them made his heart go wild. Mu Liang didn't know what to do. As he tried to turn over and kiss her hard, he realized that she was shaking. Her whole body was trembling. At first, he thought that she was afraid of being alone in an unknown place. But when he turned to look at her, he was dumbstruck. She was actually crying. Her pearl-like tears were glittering. Looking at her beautiful yet sad face, he hugged her and stroked her back gently. Such gentleness made Mu Lan cry even more. Mu Liang was helpless. It was the first time he saw her crying this much. It was as if she didn't want him to go. Mu Liang knew that it wasn't right but he felt happy inside. He thought that maybe she would agree to live in the mansion. After few minutes of crying, Mu Lan's eyes became all red and puffy. Her cheek was also red. She sobbed a little while. Helpless Mu Liang, who couldn't guess why she was crying this hard, lovingly took her in his arms and walked towards the bed. He softly sat her down on the bed and gave her a glass of water and with tissue he slowly wiped her tears away. Drinking a glass of water, Mu Lan was feeling a bit okay. Suddenly she felt shy for crying like a baby. Her face slowly turned red. Seeing her red face, Mu Liang could guess that she was becoming normal. He rubbed her head with love and asked, "Are you feeling bad or scared? Do you want to go to the mansion with me?" Mu Lan shook her head. She was looking at her hands, which were on the lap. She didn't dare to look at Mu Liang. She was worried. If he was going to look at her face, he would simply carry her to the mansion and never let her go. Mu Liang knew that he was wishing for too much. Even though his heart was prepared, still he got a blow and it hurt his heart. His heart sank. But he didn't let her know. He didn't want to force her. He wished that slowly she would open her heart to him, and it was only possible when she could share all her feelings with him and could show her all her weakness and roughness. So Mu Ling helped her lay down, and he was laid down, then hugged her with one hand. With other hand he caressed her back slowly. "I dirted you shirt. Sorry." Her voice was hoarse because she cried after a long time. Her voice pained Mu Liang. Gently, he said, "It's okay. Don't worry about it. It is normal to get upset. If you feel scared or lonely, all you just have to do is call me. I'll come and stay with you. Okay?" Mu Lan, whose head was buried in his warm chest, nodded obediently. Mu Liang smiled. "To make the situation normal and easy," he said, "when I come over, help me with drawing. I'm really bad at this." Mu Lan giggled after hearing him. Mu Liang went on, "Don't forget to take your meal properly, even if you go to library or prepare for your upcoming exam. Your health have to be your first priority. Understood?" Mu Lan nodded again. Then Mu Liang hugged her closely, then said, "Sleep now. I'll stay with you till you fall asleep." Mu Lan nuzzled his chest with her head. If you find any errors, ads pop up, ads redirect, broken links, non-standard content, etc., please let us know. Report chapter so we can fix it as soon as possible. Chapter 97. Chapter 97, like what you see? Chirp. Chirp. Beautiful melody of birds woke up Mu Lan from her slumber. She slowly opened her eyes and mellow sun ray hit her eyes. Immediately she closed her eyes. She moved her head to opposite direction and again opened her eyes. At first glance, it was very unfamiliar. She got the same feeling like she felt a week ago in Mu Mansion. She got slightly nervous. It took her few seconds to remember that she was at the dorm. Unfamiliarity, this emotion would chase her everywhere she would go. It was becoming a trauma. As soon as she remembered last evening, she looked around the room, looking for Mu Liang. Seeing his coat was gone, she realized that he was long gone. Probably when she fell asleep he went out. What she didn't know that Mu Liang slept beside her till dawn. He just could not let her stay alone for the first time in a new place, or he just couldn't let her go. But before he left, he gave her a sweet punishment. When her stomach growled loudly, Mu Lan realized she was really hungry. Stocking her stomach, she took some deep breaths, then got up from the bed. She went to bathroom to freshen up. She dressed up and looked at herself in the mirror. Ah! She let a small scream. She felt that she was having a nightmare. Blood rushed in his face. There were whole new hickeys all around her neck. She tried to cover her neck with her hands. But she would never walk on the campus covering her neck like that. Realizing her own stupidity, she let out a groan. She didn't have any skin tone cream and she didn't want to borrow from unknown girls. So she looked through the wardrobe and found no scarf. Frustration came over her. Today, she wore a sleeveless top. Now she had to change it into a shirt. Even though she had to go for so much trouble with her hungry stomach, not even once she blamed or cursed Mu Liang. It was like Mu Lan completely forgot the culprit who did this to her. Or maybe she forgave him. Or maybe she was used to it. It couldn't be that she liked it, right? Then she opened the freeze and saw some fresh vegetable. Her face lit up. She took some vegetables and washed them. The problem arose when she went to cut them. She didn't know how to cut vegetables. She took her tablet and searched in YouTube how to cook vegetable soup. She saw the video for 2 minutes. Then closed the tablet and put the vegetables back to the freeze. She took out a packet of instant noodles and poured hot water and ate it. While eating, she missed Cook Eve's food. Looks like I need some time to adapt the new environment, she thought unpleasantly. No matter how much she wanted to go back to Mu Mansion, she had to go through it because she wanted to permanently live there. Which normal woman would miss such opportunity? Furthermore, Mu Liang was only giving her the City of Gold star. He didn't offer it to anybody. Moreover, he was handsome and wasn't a womanizer. Also, he took good care of her. So it was normal for her to grab the opportunity. And it was completely normal. Getting ready, Mu Lan walked out of the room and looking around her dorm. Every female students were busy with their stuffs. Seeing a new face, they curiously looked at her. Some of them said hi to her. Some of them just observed her. Some of them just ignored. However, even for a second, they all felt jealous of her beauty. She made her way to rooftop. As Mu Lan opened the door, she saw a girl practicing judo moves by herself. She looked very confident in her moves. Her skin was yellow-white. Her hair was black. Her eyes were as sharp as eagle. She was Chinese. She was sweating a lot. Probably she was practicing for a while. Hearing the sound of opening door, that girl stopped her practice and looked at Mu Lan. Mu Lan smiled awkwardly and said, "Sorry for disturbing you." That girl smiled at her. It was a friendly smile, making Mu Lan feel less nervous. That girl, without saying anything, took her water bottle and drank mouthful. With her wet towel, she wiped her mouth, neck, and hands. Meanwhile, Mu Lan was quietly looking at her. After wiping, she looked at Mu Lan and said, "It's okay. This place is open for everyone." She observed Mu Lan for a while and then said, "You are the new girl?" Mu Lan nodded and replied, "Yes, I came yesterday." That girl made her way towards Mu Lan. She said, "It's not easy to admit here. You must be talented." Her light brown eyes were filled with curiosity. Mu Lan smiled awkwardly, remembering the way she got admitted. She shook her head shyly and said, "Not really." That judo girl smiled and said, "You don't have to be modest around me. I like people who show me their real feelings." Mu Lan also smiled hearing that line. She said, "Likewise." That girl extended her right hand and introduced herself, "I'm Jin Yen Su. You can call Ma Yen, Su, or Yen Su. Your call." Mu Lan shook her hand with Yen Su and introduced herself, "Call me Lan." Mu Lan didn't dare to use the title Mu. She knew that Mu was an influential title which shouldn't be used everywhere. Even Mu Liang always kept low profile. Yen Su smirked, "Won't tell the title, I see." Then she said, "It's okay. You are not obliged to tell me your title." Her blunt and honest response made Mu Lan relaxed like her. Mu Lan observed her. Yen Su was 5'8" tall. She had a slender body. Her eyes were light brown and lips were pale. Moreover, she was simply gorgeous. Noticing Mu Lan's gaze full of admire, Yen Su smiled brightly and said, "Like what you see?" Mu Lan felt greatly embarrassed hearing such thing. She retreated her eyes. Her ears turned. Asterisk City of Light equals Mu Mansion. If you find any errors, ads pop up, ads redirect, broken links, non-standard content, etc., please let us know. Report chapter so we can fix it as soon as possible. Chapter 98. Chapter 98, Adaptation. Yen Su was very straightforward. Her question made Mu Lan's ears burn in embarrassment. She almost stammered while lowering her head, "I'm sorry." Her innocence made Yen Su laugh hard. While laughing she said, "Geez, I was just joking. She pointed out Mulan's collar, which Mulan wanted to hide so much, and said, I know you recently got a boyfriend. Mulan concealed her neck and shrank her body. She was feeling like a girl who was being picked on. Her nervousness caught Yan Su's eyes. She said, if you want to hide it so much, why don't you use cream concealer? I don't have one. Mulan said truthfully. Yan Su nodded and replied, no worries. I have a new one. I'll let you borrow it. Mulan shook her head continuously as she said, thank you, but I don't need it. Yan Su was preparing for going to her room. Hearing Mulan, she looked back and asked, so you want people to know that how intimate you are with your boyfriend? And then Mulan agreed. They went to downstairs, and in this 6-storied building, Yan Su lived in the 3rd floor in the corner, just above Mulan. When they entered the room, Mulan started to observe her surroundings. The room was dyed in pink. It was neat and clean, and everything was well organized. There was 4 beds and reading tables, but there were signs of living 3 girls. Mulan still asked, how many of you live here? Yan Su gave her a boring look. Unfortunately, I got myself 2 antisocial roommates. We hardly talk to each other. Mulan was puzzled. She asked, why is that? Yan Su sat on her bed and said, why, indeed. One of them is well known in the whole university for her beauty. She is from an influential family. Beauty as she is, she hardly talks to anyone. Another one is known for her scholar personality. Yan Su pointed out the bookshelf full of books. All she does is reading books. She took the whole bookshelf. We didn't mind though. I don't like books much. So does our Queen of Beauty. Look at the bookworm's bed. The shelf wasn't enough for her to keep the books. Even she sleeps with books. Mulan's eyes almost popped out of the socket. She was a book lover too. But this was crazy what she was watching. She replied, don't you think it's good for having such quiet room, like no one lives in here except you? Yan Su stroked her chin as she thought about it. Then she nodded and said, you're not wrong. It's better than drug addicts and chain smokers. But still, roommates are supposed to be friends. I feel lonely. She looked helpless as she talked. She looked like a lost puppy who had no family. Mulan was standing in front of a reading table and picked up a book written How to Become Social. She brought it to Yan Su and said, maybe they are just giving to some space so that you can adjust yourself. I think they're being kind to you. Mulan sat beside Yan Su and continued, maybe they are not being carefree. They are being serious about you because you are their roommate. If they really are antisocial, then they just don't know how to approach you. Then Mulan asked, you never shared your feelings with them, did you? Thinking for a minute, Yan Su replied, you are right. I didn't. I thought that they are not interested in me. Mulan smiled, it's not easy to understand antisocial or shy people. At first, they look hard to approach and proud. When you get to know them, you'll see how wonderful they are. There was a soft gaze in Mulan's eyes which was noticed by Yan Su. She asked Mulan, do you know someone like that? Mulan got startled by the question. She thought hard but couldn't remember any person like that. However, she felt like that she forgot something important. She shook her head and said, no. Not really. Yan Su kept looking at her, then she stood up, went closer to her wardrobe, opened it, took out a small box and threw it towards Mulan. Mulan tried to catch it but failed 2 times. Each time she tried to catch it, the box flew away above her. On her 3rd try, she did catch it, however, she almost laid down on the bed. Yan Su said, gosh, you suck at this. Mulan gave her a hard smile. She didn't mention that she just woke up from coma after 9 months. Mulan went to the bathroom and applied the cream. It concealed all the hickeys. Relieved, she opened the door and walked out. She looked at Yan Su and with smile she said, thank you very much, Yan Su. I'll pay for the cream. Yan Su hurriedly waved her hands and said, no need. It is something that my mother gave it to me. But I don't use such stuffs, so I put it away. Today I got someone to give it to her. You can keep it for the advice you gave me today. I'll talk to them when I meet them. Mu Lan smiled and nodded. She replied, that's very nice of you and good luck. I'll head back now. Yan Su smiled as well, sure. Then she walked Mu Lan out. Mu Lan straight went back to her room, put down the cream on the table, took out her class routine. According to the routine, there were 3 classes for painting and 1 class for sculpture today. With jolly mind, she took necessary notebook and book, and also water bottle, put them on her school bag. At last, she looked at the mirror, seeing herself one more time, then finally she headed out to catch the class. Today was a grand new day, and it was the day she started her adaptation in the new world. If you find any errors, ads pop up, ads redirect, broken links, non-standard content, etc., please let us know. Report chapter so we can fix it as soon as possible. Chapter 99. Chapter 99, Be careful. It was a wait of 20 minutes to walk from the girls' dorm to the painting class. The class was in the 3rd floor. Not waiting for the capsule lift, Mu Lan took the stairs. On the 2nd floor, she heard some girls talking about something. The phrase Queen of Beauty caught her attention. Stopping on the track, she looked at a group of 4 girls. Curiously, she walked towards them. Just then one of them gasped as she looked at the corridor. Subconsciously, Mu Lan also looked at the corridor and her eyes halted on a handsome boy. He had a tall figure, blonde hair, blue eyes. He was smiling at the girls and the girls were cheering. A perfect Italian boy. Mu Lan thought as her lips twitched. Just she was about to look elsewhere, her gaze halted on the girl who opened a door and walked out. Mu Lan blinked few times before understanding that she wasn't dreaming. The girl was 5 feet 5 inches high. She was shorter than Mu Lan. She got blonde hair which was glittering in sunlight. Her hair was disciplined and laid on her bosom peacefully. She took good care of herself. Her skin was pale and had a slender body. She wasn't as thin as a model, but her body was healthy and any man would dream to have her. Her green eyes glowed as she looked at the sun. Her lips were natural pink. Her almost round face and skin color said that she was half Chinese. She got a drawing book and pencil box, which meant that she finished her class minute ago. She walked towards Mu Lan. That Italian boy from earlier came in front of her and he spread his hands on the both side. With full of confidence, he said loudly, "Ing, my love." But the girl called Ing didn't give him any reaction. In the last moment, she simply dodged the hug of that boy and walked past him. She treated him like a thin air. That confident guy looked very awkward. A trace of smile spread on Mu Lan's lips. I like this girl's attitude, she thought. She looked around at Ing girl. Some boys sighed in relief. Some girl gave Ing a jealous look like the group earlier. Others treated like they were used to it and didn't pay too much attention. Mu Lan looked at the group she was going to. Those girls were looking at Ing in a malicious gaze. Mu Lan was still standing in the corner of the corridor, closer to the stairs. As Ing passed Mu Lan to go downstairs, Mu Lan warned her in a low voice, "Be careful." Startled, Ing looked back at her. Clear shock written all over her face. Mu Lan nodded at her and went to upstairs. That girl is surprisingly innocent. She is more like an open book. What she is thinking is too easy to read, Mu Lan thought. She was surprised too. For a Western beauty, Mu Lan thought that they were very natural and mature. But this girl was polar opposite. Her face was slightly blushing, which meant that she was affected by that Italian boy's declare. However, she made everyone believe that she was totally unaffected. It showed her habitual practice or habitual performance, which meant that she was used to it from the very beginning. Mu Lan didn't think much about it. She headed towards the class. After the class was over, she walked towards the library. She admitted that she got herself some peculiar classmates. Girls or boys, everyone was too much into their class, they hardly talked to each other. Their dress-up was different from other students. She saw some groups and talked to them. All they talked about was art and future of art. Mu Lan sighed. She thought that she could make some new friends. But it seemed that everyone in her class had only one purpose in their life, which was making arts the reality. Though art and life was whole different things. However, this session's main target was to give art the life. Mu Lan bit her lower lips and walked fast. As she was walking, she was admiring the sky. The sky was clear, and in the sky blue canvas, white clouds were floating. The sun was also in happy mode. Today he wasn't glaring but smiling warmly at the earth people. The sun's warm ray filled Mu Lan's heart. For some reason, the sun reminded her of Mu Liang. Mu Liang's gaze was also as warm as the sunlight. It gave her security. She smiled thinking of Mu Liang, and as she turned left on the corridor of the library, she collided with someone. It was a girl. Mu Lan was walking fast, so she couldn't balance her stance, and the girl was also startled by Mu Lan's sudden appearance as they both fell on the floor. Mu Lan was the one who reacted first. She quickly got up and helped that girl to stand up to. The girl was carrying 4 books, 2 notebooks and a pencil box. They carefully picked them up. Mu Lan gave that girl her belongings, then bowed and said, "Sorry." After that she looked at the girl properly. The girl was about 5 feet 2 inches. She was really short and skinny. Her skin color was jade white, and anyone would think that she had no blood inside of her body. Her brown hair touched her waist. They were unbelievably silk. Her lips were thick and as red rose. It was quite unacceptable. Where she got no blood on her body, it was like all of her blood gathered in her lips. The color gave her face extra charm. The thing which was more attractive of her was her ash-colored eyes. Mu Lan stared at her eyes without blinking. Thus she got to meet the third interesting character today. If you find any errors, ads pop up, ads redirect, broken links, non-standard content, etc., please let us know. Report chapter so we can fix it as soon as possible. Chapter 100. Chapter 100, Interview 01. This is an interview of the author of Handsome CEO's Darling Wife. Mu Feng. Hello dearest readers, I'm Mu Feng, miss me? Today I'm going to introduce you to our happy-go-lucky author. Today she's here with us to increase our interest in this novel. Dear author, please say hello to your loyal readers. Flo07, hello my beloved readers. I thank you from the bottom of my heart for reading my novel. Mu Feng, I also thank dear author for creating my character. Flo07, my pleasure. Mu Feng, so first question to our happy-go-lucky author, why do you use such pen name? Flo07, Flo actually was created from my name Florence. My thinking flows like water and I love water. So with my name and thinking process I started fancy the word flow. And 07 means the month July, my birth month and my favorite number. Mu Feng, oh, how creative. Is that why my sister Lan Lan have the birth date July 14th? Flo07, yes. Mu Feng, okay, next question. Is this the first time that you are writing novel? Flo07, actually, when I was simply a kid, I used to write poems, basically about my family and relatives. Then, in the middle school I started writing long stories with no particular rules, so those works can't be called novels. And this is the first time I'm writing professionally. Mu Feng, this novel that you created, what is this about? We read the synopsis, but please explain elaborately. Flo07, basically, it is about Hua Lan who becomes Mu Lan in future. From the time she is born, her life is full of mystery. Even her ex-lover Li and new lover Mu don't know that history thoroughly either. Many of us think what's so good about history. Present is more important. But I think your past makes who you are in the present. So it's definitely important. Hua Lan's present is like that because of her past. From the time she is born. And no one knows it except me, hee. We'll get to find it out sooner. As the time will pass, she will unfold all the stories behind her. As she will know, and we also will get to her past. Feng, so the powerful Mu isn't your main target? Flow07, not really. If it was, then I wouldn't tell my readers about the history of Mu family in the first place. The intention of telling them about the history because it is not that important and it is something that the readers needed to know. But it will play an important role in future. Feng, thank you for giving my family a bit importance. Flow07, of course I will. Mu has two major characters after all. Feng, does that include me? Flow07, you will find that out soon enough. Feng, cough asterisk. Okay, next question, will this novel drop? Flow07, absolutely not. Feng, at first, the chapters we about 500 to 800 words. What made you to write 1K words in each chapters now? Flow07, it was because of my incompetency, lack of skill and lack of experience. Now I know how much should I write. And I'm still learning. Feng, how many chapters will be there? Flow07, 500 chapters or more than that. Feng, our beloved readers found some spelling and grammar mistakes. What do you think of that? Flow07, I feel awful when I even think of that. When you read something and find some silly mistakes, it's totally annoying. As an author, I'm ashamed. Though I check after writing, sometimes it just misses my eyes. Feng, some readers are thinking how my big brother and sister Lan will match up. Flow07, did I say anywhere that they will match up? Feng, what do you mean? Flow07, what I mean is patience is a great virtue. Feng, author please. Don't give us heart attack. Flow07, all I can say that this novel is not a tragedy. I dislike tragedy. Feng, sighed in relief, thank you author. Next question, you created 3 new characters which took you 2 days. How can readers judge them? Flow07, web novel is the platform for writers as well as the readers. Writers can write whatever they want. Readers can read and critique whatever they want. The new characters are something which are very important to the end. When I started to create them, not only I had to think of their behaviors or body structure but also their family background and history, also their connections with lead characters. I know my readers will love them. Feng, about the love scene. Flow07, it will happen just the way my loyal readers want. But it will take time. Feng, about the mature content, your tag says violence. What about it? Flow07, it will come almost in the end, but before it comes, I'll ask my readers how they want the scenes. Feng, and the mysterious President Li. Flow07, just wait for the right moment. Feng, heartless. Suddenly your writing drastically changed and you edited previous chapters. Why is that? Flow07, as a newcomer, I can't catch many things like a reader does. So I tell my readers to criticize my writings. It's a great help. They make me realize my mistakes. I'm really happy for that. To me, criticism is always welcome. Also, one of my beloved readers told me to read Ding Mo's novels. In August, I devoted myself reading her novels and I fell for the characters, the stories, the chemistry. I thank that reader of mine. Really. It was a great help. Feng, is there something you want to tell your readers? Flow07, of course. As a newcomer, I'm inexperienced but my readers read my novel without any complaint. It is the greatest joy to me. You have no idea how much it means to me. Also, I have readers in USA. I heard about Storm Florence. Though I have no idea why they gave such destructive storm such gorgeous name, but my deepest condolences to those who suffered. Your comments, reviews and votes are my greatest inspiration. Thank you very much for supporting me. I'll keep writing. Next novel will be related to this one. Don't forget to read it. Mu Feng will gladly wait for the new novel. Dear readers, let's stop the interview for today. Keep asking new questions and we will be back in 200th chapter with those questions and answer to thoroughly. Till then, please read our story and support my big brother and sister Lan Lan. Flow 07, that's cheating. Mu Feng, bye bye. If you find any errors, ads pop up, ads redirect, broken links, non-standard content, etc., please let us know. Report chapter so we can fix it as soon as possible. Volume 2. Chapter 101. Chapter 101, This is how it should be. The girl as white as jade shrank by Mu Lan's observant eyes. She almost stammered as she said, Thank you. She also bowed a little, giving Mu Lan a distant feeling as she walked past her. Mu Lan kept looking at her till that white jade girl was out of her sight. That girl didn't even look at her. She is the weirdest person I've met so far, she thought. Not thinking much, she went to the library. She took out some books and engulfed herself in the book world. If it wasn't for the librarian asking her if she had lunch, she would starve today. Mu Lan became a member of the library and took some books before she headed towards the girls' dorm. She walked faster as her stomach was giving her signals. She went to her room, took a bath, changed and ate her special instant noodles slowly. While eating she kept remembering her romantic dinners with Mu Liang. Just that moment she remembered that she didn't take her cell phone with her the entire day. She stopped eating, she fled towards the bed and grabbed her cell phone. There were 2 messages and both from Mu brothers. First one was from Mu Feng. He had sent a message 4 hours ago. It was written, Sister Lan Lan, how was your first experience of first university class? He sent it exactly after the classes ended. Looks like they know my schedule better than I do, she thought. Her mouth twitched as her gaze fell on Sister Lan Lan. Clearly that guy would not stop himself from calling her that. Mu Lan replied to him, it was enjoyable. Thank you. Next one was from Mu Liang and he sent it an hour ago. He wrote her, had your lunch yet? Mu Lan choked. Her first thought was, how did he know? Did he spy on me? After taking some deep breaths, she calmed down. Her rational thoughts overflowed in her head. She thought, Liang isn't someone despicable to spy on a girl. He is not a pervert. Maybe he is worried about my safety, that's why he sent a spy. No, that's not it. A man like him, if he knew that I was eating instant noodles all day, he would immediately send a car to bring me cookies food. Suddenly an event which had happened a week ago flashed through her mind. She was at Bibliothèque Nationale de France and she kept reading there until Mu Liang came to fetch her. It was almost evening and she didn't have anything after breakfast. That night they went to Eiffel Tower. Mu Lan nodded in understanding. She slowly stroked her chin and talked to herself, so that's how it is. That day you got to see my bad habit and now you got worried. What will you do if you get to know that I can't cook? She wrote a reply to him, I did. What about you? Mu Mansion. Mu Liang and Mu Feng were sitting on the bench beside the lake and enjoying the scenery after lunch. Suddenly Mu Feng's cell phone rang. It was a message tone. Mu Feng checked the message and his face lit up. He excitedly showed his brother the message and said, Look big brother, Sister Lan sent me a reply. Mu Liang didn't show any expression and just glanced at the message, then looked at the lake. His calm behavior didn't let his younger brother know his inner feelings. Mu Feng smiled cheekily and said, Big brother, you are not jealous are you? Mu Liang didn't say anything and sat still. After few minutes, Mu Liang's cell phone rang. Slowly he reached his mobile and checked the message. A small smile appeared on his lips. He tapped the buttons and sent another message. Feeling suspicious, Mu's phone peeped on the phone screen. It was a message from Mu Lan. She even questioned him back if he had eaten or not. Mu's phone felt dejected. He asked his brother, "Why is she so close to you and so formal with me?" Mu Liang gave his younger brother a look and said, "This is how it should be." He said it as a matter of fact. Mu phone. After Mu Lan sent the messages, she started eating again. She just took a spoonful noodles and her cell phone rang again. While eating, she checked the phone. It was a message from Mu Liang. He asked, "What did you have for lunch?" Half of the noodles from the spoon fell back to the noodles bowl. She panicked and quickly typed a message. After calming down, she looked at the screen and she lost it. She wrote a reply: rice and pork rib. Who would get to eat Chinese food in the France University campus? There was no Chinese restaurant. Mu Lan tapped her head on the table and called herself more than 100 times idiot, idiot, idiot. Meanwhile, reading her message, Mu Liang's frowned. Next day, Mu Lan got ready to catch up with her class. She never before had made any statue, so she was very excited about sculpture class. When she went to the class, she saw everyone was preparing for the class. They were wearing plastic caps to cover their hair, mask, gloves, and apron. Their teacher also gave Mu Lan a set of those. She wore them and sat in the corner closer to the window. Their teacher made 4 teams and Mu Lan was on the 4th team. She observed her teammates who were also as spirited as her, except one. That person was a male student and she didn't see him yesterday. That guy was sturdy, tall, well-muscled. His brown hair was cut short. He had a fair skin with a beautiful pair of blue eyes. The difference between him and the other students was spectacular. He was neither excited nor interested like others. He kept yawning, making others feel displeasure. Mu Lan found it very interesting. If you find any errors, ads pop up, ads redirect, broken links, non-standard content, etc., please let us know. Report chapter so we can fix it as soon as possible. Chapter 102. Chapter 102, You Are. Mu Lan wanted to talk to him, but as the class started there was no way to talk. Their sculpture teacher was a funny man. They had fun in the class, however, as they started to make statues, the students' smiles vanished from their mouths. Painting was something they all could do. However, making sculpture was whole new different thing. It needed patience and practice, and more importantly diligence. There was a statue of a fish which was looking at the sky and its half of the body was on a big rock of the sea. It was a fish who was tired of living in the bottom of the sea and was dreaming to touch the sky. From the look it was an easy piece. But the fine arts students couldn't make a fish, how could they finish the whole statue? Within few minutes, they all drenched in sweat. A girl already gave up. Looking at her, the students started to become demotivated. Mu Lan got high-spirited and used her hands faster, and then accidentally she broke the fish's tail. She stopped working and huffed as she sat on the chair and took out her bottle and drank a mouthful. She wiped the sweat from her forehead and looked around. She was about to retreat her gaze. Just then, something very interesting caught her eyes. It was that handsome, quiet, sturdy man showed his displeasure before was working on his sculpture very seriously. His fish was showing a good shape. Everyone was busy with their work, so no one actually saw his work. Mu Lan is in daze and it took her a while to understand what was going on. After realizing what she was seeing, she jumped out of the chair and quickly walked towards him. She looked at his work with curiosity. The way he worked, he looked like a pro. Mu Lan exclaimed in surprise, "Wow! You are a genius, Dot." She was loud and excited. So everyone's attention turned towards her and then him. With teacher, other students gathered around their table. They all became very interested in his work. Some of them started take note. Meanwhile, the person who had gotten all the attention, stiffed. His whole body became solid just like a statue. Everyone understood that he got nervous, so they started to praise his and inspire him. Slowly he got relaxed and finished his work in an hour. Everyone clapped and congratulated him. Girl student gave extra glances to the other sides as well. That male student was working hard. Even though he was wearing t-shirt, his strong muscles were understandable. He was covered with sweat. His dampness wet his brown hair. His sweat on the skin was glittering on the light. The girls gulped at his handsomeness. On the first class of his university life, he became popular. Many students took his number and most of them were girls. Even if they weren't interested in his sculpture making, they were certainly interested in other things. That man's ears turned red as he thought of his own popularity. After class, Mu Liang cleaned herself and took care of her apron, gloves, mask and plastic cap and put them on her locker. Then she picked her bag and was ready to go out. Before she went out, she looked around to look for that guy. She also wanted to chat with him, not because of the other thing but for statue making. However, he was nowhere to be seen. After looking for a few minutes, Mu Liang headed back. She went to library and grabbed some references and CDs about sculpture and spent some time there. After studying for an hour, Mu Liang looked around the library as she twisted her body. Right then, she spotted that genius. He was standing beside the window of the library and was looking outside. It wasn't like a dazed look of a poet but a look of person who was searching for something. Mu Liang was about to get up. Right that moment, he put his right hand on the pocket, took out his cell phone. It seemed like he got a call and he hurriedly got out of the room to answer it. Thinking nothing of it, she tried to concentrate at the book. At that moment a girl walked inside the library. She took 4 books from the library and sat in the corner of the room. Today Mu Liang was completely distracted. As she saw the girl covered her face with book, her jade white, skinny hands remind Mu Liang of the girl she collided to yesterday. Feeling her gaze, the girl looked up. Her gray-colored eyes looked at Mu Liang's eyes. Her gaze was very sharp. Mu Liang felt that she was being devoured. She felt that the girl can see through everything. Mu Liang nodded to her out of courtesy and buried her head in the book. God, that was scary, she thought. The more she tried to concentrate, the more she saw a vision of those gray eyes. She was very much attracted to those particular eyes. Those eyes were very captivating. Not able to concentrate anymore, she got up and left the library. That's when she remembered that she missed the chance to talk to the boy. After walking few meters, Mu Liang suddenly stopped on the track. She looked back and saw no one. She felt a chill. She could swear that someone was looking at her back intensely. Mu Liang went to cafeteria. She took her order and sat on the corner, from where she could see everything. While eating, she found nothing suspicious. Finding her meal, she walked towards the garden. Again, she got a feeling that someone was looking at her. She stopped on the track and went to the fine arts faculty. She walked fast to the sculpture room. Mu Liang closed the room and in room became dark. She wasn't afraid of dark. She didn't turn on the light. After waiting few moments, she walked middle of the. Accidentally, she tripped herself, made a huge thud noise. A scream came out of her mouth. Just then, someone barged into the room and hurriedly turned on the light. Light filled up the room. Mu Liang saw it was that genius boy from the sculpture class. She was obviously surprised. That guy was dumbfounded too. Finally Mu Liang opened her mouth. You are. If you find any errors, ads pop up, ads redirect, broken links, non-standard content, etc., please let us know. Report chapter so we can fix it as soon as possible. Chapter 103. Chapter 103, How come? The moment Mu Liang stepped out of the in the morning, she realized that someone was gazing at her. She didn't give much attention and went to the library. In the library, the gray-eyed girl looked at her sharply. Mu Lan thought, was it her? But it didn't seem like it. As she couldn't concentrate anymore, she left the library. After leaving the library, she again started to feel that someone was gazing at her back. It gave Mu Lan chill down her spine. She thought of the pictures that Feng showed her. She was being chased out by the gangsters. She remembered that Mu Liang warned her not to go alone anywhere. She walked fast towards the cafeteria and kept eyes on everywhere. Not feeling any chilling gaze, she finished her meal unhurriedly. When the lunch had been finished, she walked around the garden. It was a nice day to stroll around. The sun was half covered with white clouds. There was a soft breeze made her heart calm. Just then, for the third time in a single day, Mu Lan felt that someone was following her. Her mood was totally off. First, she had breakfast with instant noodles for 2 days. Second, she missed Cook Eve's food. Third, she couldn't make new friends. Fourth, she couldn't make a single showpiece. Fifth, she wanted to enjoy the nature but it was ruined by a damn stalker. Naturally, she was clearly mad. Her eyes glowed and she gave a very twisting smile. Anyone who would see this face of her would get frightened. Mu Lan slowly made her way to the fine arts faculty. There is no use of making such fuss about a stalker. Let's do it in a peaceful way, she thought to herself. It was still a lunchtime, so no one was in the room. Mu Lan was not afraid of darkness. She closed the door and waited quietly for certain footsteps. She counted 1 to 20. Later, she walked to the lockers and she opened hers. There were a torch and sharp objects in there. She took a torch as well as a knife and moved middle of the room. Intentionally, she made a huge noise and sat beside a large table. She heard footsteps coming closer. Mu Lan held her breath. Few seconds later, someone opened the door with great force and turned on the light. The light filled the room and Mu Lan looked at the intruder. It was the genius boy she was very eager to meet. The boy was dumbfounded too, seeing her calm face. Mu Lan's brain started to work like a roller coaster. This guy was clearly stalking me. No one was in the corridor. So it is easy to guess as he came first. Mu Lan bit her lower lip. Although he was stalking me, he doesn't seem to have any bad intention. He thought that I got hurt and that's why he hurriedly came. He even turned on the light. If he had any bad intention, he would never do that. Mu Lan opened her mouth first. You are the one who is after me. I want to know why. She took a breath and continued. I wanted to get to meet you from the first time I saw you. If you were also interested, why didn't you talk to me and rather stalk me? It's creepy. Her cold and straightforward voice made that genius go stiff. Actually, right now, Mu Lan was very nervous. She tried to act tough, so she was trying to copy Mu Liang. Once Mu Liang was very angry because she forgot to take lunch when she was in the library. When she looked at his composure back then, she was afraid of him a bit, though she knew that he got mad because she didn't take care of herself and broke the promise. Now she was trying to duplicate him. And it worked very well. The guy knew that his pretend would take him nowhere. Finally he opened his mouth, But his words were stuck because of his nervousness. He sounded grave and rigid. He didn't know what to say. It was time for Mu Lan to get astonished. Though he voiced so little, she could clearly remember the voice. Her memory was sharp and she knew very people after she woke up 8 days ago. She questioned in the most confounded manner, Hugo, is that you? How come? She couldn't even finish her question. At first, her brain stopped working as it was frozen due to shock, then in next moment, it started to work, she said, yesterday I wrote a lie to Liang, and he caught it. And now he sent you to do what? To cook for me or to protect me? I need a cook, not a bodyguard. Suddenly a point hit her head. She stood up quickly and said, "Hang on a second. Did he send you to monitor me?" Hugo Muller, who was already caught red-handed, couldn't utter a word and nodded. Mu Lan wanted to burst in fury. Her plan to look for her past would go down to hell if Hugo would monitor her 247. Did she eat instant noodles for nothing? No way in hell. She frowned at Hugo and asked him, "For how long you are going to monitor me, but?" Hugo bowed his head and said, "Young miss, I'll only monitor you when you'll be out of your room. Boss only ordered me to protect you from unwanted threat, not to monitor you." He defended his boss. "Unwanted threat, my foot. He wanted all boys to stay out of my side." Mu Lan huffed. "Well played, Liang. Now it's my turn." She thought as her head stormed inside to make a new plan for future. Mu Liang was at the office. He was busy in a meeting. Suddenly his mobile chimed. Assistant Zhu Long stopped and looked at his boss. Mu Liang signaled him to continue and he unlocked his cell phone to see the message. It was a folder of Mu Lan's today's activities. There were pictures of her trying to make a statue, her reading books, smiling as she looked at the sun, walking in the garden, eating pasta for lunch. She looked like she was enjoying herself. A thin yet attractive smile appeared in Mu Liang's lips. If you find any errors, ads pop up, ads redirect, broken links, non-standard content, etc., please let us know. Report chapter so we can fix it as soon as possible. Chapter 104. Chapter 104, My sweet mouth is only for you. Mu Lan couldn't get any angrier. But after thinking of a plan, she started to calm down. Then she looked at her handsome bodyguard who was feeling very wronged. Seeing his face, Mu Lan's last bit of irritation ran away. She walked towards him and looked at his eyes intensely. Then she opened her mouth, "Hugo, I'm not mad at you, not even I'm blaming you for anything. You're just doing your job, I understand that. However, you must not call me young miss in front of others. What you call me in the mansion, I have no complaints. But you can't do it outside because I don't want anyone to know about my relationship with your boss because nothing has been announced, got it?" Hearing her soft voice, Hugo Muller was feeling a huge burden lift his chest. He bowed and said, "As you wish, Miss Lan." Mu Lan shook her head and said, "How can you call your classmate Miss Lan? You should directly call me Lan." Hugo's heart froze after what he just heard. "Young miss, are you trying to punish me? Do you know what will boss do if he gets to know that I'm calling you by your name? I want to live longer," he cried in his heart. Hugo stuttered as he said, "Be boss." Mu Lan lifted her head higher and put her both hands on her waist. Then she said, "What boss? Didn't he send you to disguise yourself and to protect me? He ordered you to be my classmate. If you don't call me by my name but Miss Lan, don't you think everyone will be suspicious? Your plans in disguise will be in vain. If you stay as my friend, then no one will doubt you and you can protect me anywhere I go. Don't you think so too?" Mu Lan's logic was very accurate and precise. Hugo couldn't say no to that. But his boss. Hugo looked at his lady boss and said, "What will I tell the boss?" Mu Lan smiled sweetly at her bodyguard and replied, "I'll talk to him." You don't have to say anything about it. She already made a plan how to manage Mu Liang, so she wasn't worried. The one who was worried the most was Hugo. That night he couldn't sleep well. Mu Lan in a light mood. After going to the dorm, she took a bath while humming, changed into a white shirt and sky blue knee-length skirt and later turned on the laptop to research on sculpture and took notes. In the evening, she went to cafeteria and finished her dinner. After that, she walked around the campus aimlessly. The night was slight chilly and the sky was lightly covered with clouds. So Mu Lan couldn't enjoy starry sky like she did in the Mu Mansion. Looking at the sky, she suddenly thought about the people who live in the Mu Mansion. What are they doing now? She wondered. A handsome face flashed in her mind. Wandering in the campus, she missed those people who took care of her. They were the very first and only family she knew, and so she kept thinking about them. Just then, her cell phone rang. She took it out and gazed at the screen. On the screen, the name Liang was very clear. In a second, the loneliness she was feeling flew away. She quickly answered the call. "Hello, Liang. It was only a day that Mu Liang didn't hear her voice. But he felt like it a year. Her sweet melody hit his ears to heart. His frosty heart melted. A warmth spread in his eye as he said, "Lan." His deep voice made Mu Lan's ears turn red. Suddenly her heart started to race. In a slightly cold weather, she felt rather hot. Mu Lan held her cell phone more closer to her ear. Mu Liang asked playfully, "Missed me?" Mu Lan was astounded. How did he know? She almost voiced out her question, but in the last second, she controlled. She twisted the question, "Did you?" "I did." Mu Liang didn't hesitate to answer. This time, Mu Lan's face burnt. With her free hand, she rubbed her cheek hardly. For a few seconds, no one said anything. Later, Mu Liang asked, "How are you?" "I'm fine." "How are you?" Mu Lan asked warmly. "How can I feel well when you are not beside me?" There was an obvious loneliness in his voice. For a few seconds, Mu Lan didn't know what to say. Liang. What is it?" His deep voice echoed through the speaker. "You have such a sweet mouth." She spoke her heart. Mu Liang smiled while he asked, "Do you like it?" "I don't hate it." Mu Lan gave an indirect answer. A charming yet shy smile touched her lips. Mu Liang replied, "My sweet mouth is only for you." Mu Lan's heart flattered hearing this. She thought something, "We aren't even dating yet, and look at him. His mouth is bathing in honey." Then she remembered that she had to tell him about Hugo. His honey mouth is very dangerous. I almost forgot about it. In a honey voice, Mu Lan said, Liang, I want to say something about Hugo." Mu Liang's smile disappeared. That was expected. He thought. "Are you mad?" he asked. "I did it for your safety." "I know exactly well why you did it," she thought. Then she said, "I know, and I'm not bad. Truth is, it's good to know that someone is here to protect me. I can't thank you enough for it. I also planned an easy to handle it. Listen carefully, okay?" "Sure," Mu Liang said. He was relieved that she wasn't upset. "Hugo needs to take care of me 247. So I thought that if he became my friend and we stick together, no one will be doubtful about it as he is my classmate. However, if he calls me young Miss or Miss Lan, it would be a huge blow. We can't make it suspicious. So what do you think?" Mu Lan was confident about it. Because Mu Liang never was illogical. No, however, Mu Liang firmly declined her plan. Mu Lan's heart dropped. She controlled her emotion and asked, "Why? Why? How can I allow my employee to call you by your name?" He asked in a grave voice, "Isn't that obvious? But if he continue to act like this, I will feel chill all the time like today. It will attract others too. Moreover, they will get curious and will talk about me behind my back. I'll never get a good friend. My school life will be doomed," she said painfully. Mu Liang hesitated before saying, "No. Please?" Mu Lan used the sweetest voice. Still no. Mu Liang rejected. This time Mu Lan used the cutest voice like a pampering princess. "Pretty please?" "Okay." Mu Liang couldn't hold back anymore. Hearing her sweetest, cutest voice, he was going crazy. Mission completed. If you find any errors, ads pop up, ads redirect, broken links, non-standard content, etc., please let us know. Report chapter so we can fix it as soon as possible. Chapter 105. Chapter 105, Danger, Quick. Mu Lan was in an excellent mood as she headed towards her dorm while humming in a low voice. She kept remembering Mu Liang's captivating voice and his honey words. She smiled brighter and she kept looking at the sky and walked on the lone road. She slowly went upstairs and took out the room key. As she was going to unlock the door, suddenly she heard a muffled sound. Mu Lan stopped on the track. She wanted to realize if she heard wrong. After few seconds, she heard a rustle sound. It sounded like of clothes. The sound was so low that if Mu Lan didn't give her full concentration on looking for the sound, she wouldn't be able to hear that. Mu Lan quickly texted Hugo to come quick. Then, in a slow motion and without a single sound, she moved forward to the sound. The sound came from 4th floor corner, just above Shui Lin's room. As Mu Lan's room also on the same side, she could hear the sound. When Mu Lan started to get close to 4th floor, the muffled sound was even more clear. She climbed the 4th floor. She saw the dark corridor. Why the corridor is dark? Mu Lan frowned. She bent her body and tried to hide herself in the dark. However, she wore a white shirt which made it impossible to do so.